Summit Point Raceway lies in Jefferson, West Virginia, and tonight it hosts the first race of the virtual Mid-Atlantic Road Racing Series. This is Washington, D.C. area components of the Sports Car Club of America. These drivers tonight mostly consist of real-world club-level racers. When the weather turns cold and the daylight runs out, this group of talented individuals takes to the virtual world of iRacing. A 72-minute race tonight will decide the victor at this tight and twisty circuit. The Ford FR500 Mustang is a heavy brute, and it's going to slog around these corners like a container ship. But down the straightaways, the V8 engine will pull it along much faster than the MX-5s. The MX-5 Miata is a light and nimble track toy, and like a swarm of buzzing bees, they'll do battle alongside the MX-5s. And tonight, I'm excited. We have 40 cars entered, and right now as we qualify, we're going to have a massively sized grid here this evening.
I was going to say, there's going to be a lot of cars and a lot of guys to keep track of. And yeah, like you're saying, that this is a unique group of guys that are running, because not only do they know each other on the sim, they know each other in real life. And it's kind of funny because the whole point of iRacing was to connect yourself with people around the world, but these guys know each other in real life and race on here as well. So should be a fun race. Again, like you said, massive field of cars, 40 between both classes, and they're both pretty evenly dispersed.
Yeah, as we take a look at your graphics on the left-hand side of your screen, your class designations, the yellow is the Ford FR500S Mustang, and the blue is the Mazda MX-5 Miata. And as they qualify there, you can see the lap differentials there. Right now, Forrest Landy in that 35 Mustang up on top of the board with a 120.988. The crazy thing here, Finney, even though the Mustang on a bigger track would be much faster, the lap time difference here is only about 4 to 5 seconds. These MX-5s really are well suited to this tight and twisty track.
I was going to say, yeah, because the Mustang, you can see one Mustang there, they struggle in the slower corners, but the Miata is nice, as you're saying in the intro, light and nimble. So you can really chuck them around here, and that's really where the Mustangs are going to be losing speed, is in the corners to the Miatas. But down the two very long straightaways, they're able to make up their speed there.
We want to thank two sponsors here tonight, OG Racing and Radial Tire Company, making this possible here this evening for the VirtualMARRS Sports Car Club of America series here within iRacing. Let's take a look at our track conditions here this afternoon, Finian. Summit Point Raceway here in West Virginia, 78 degrees on the track, or excuse me, in the air, and 85 degrees Fahrenheit on the racetrack. So not super slippery. There's going to be a lot of grip out there tonight.
Yeah, definitely a lot of grip, and that's going to make for some fun racing, as guys are going to be trying to outbreak each other, throw in some moves, and some guys trying to work towards the front of the field, and it's a big field to work through, so it's going to be fun to watch.
One of my favorite corners here, Finian, right here. This sand trap on the exit, I believe that's turn 4, if I'm turn 3 or
5.
turn 4.
No, 4. Yeah.
5 is the downhill left-hander, but this racetrack here, there's not a whole lot of places where you really get to the edge of the racetrack like this at speed. And at the corner exit there, you're probably pulling close to 100 miles an hour, and that sand trap there with that curve is not very tall. You see a couple drivers going off track there. That is going to be about 3 feet deep of a ditch down there once the drivers dig that sand out. So you can see the tire marks there already. Wow, look at I think it was the number 7 Mazda, Zach Rubin, going off track. That corner is going to get well used, and that dust cloud is going to get bigger and bigger. And with an iRacing here, you got to be careful, because you already see the sand collecting on the racing line, and it's going to make it very tricky and slippery for cars later in the race.
Yeah, I have a feeling by the end of this 72-minute race, it's going to be a beach down there. So we'll keep track of that as time goes on.
Let's right on board for a lap here with the current pole sitter for the MX-5. We're already down through turn 1 already with Devin Taylor in this number 26 Miata, and as we work our way now up to that left-hander we were just talking about a second ago. Got to get right up against that curb and maybe climb it just a little bit, track out to the right. You can already see all the tire marks there. And then we're going to head down towards turn 5, this left-hander at the bottom of the hill. This is a tight hairpin. You got to get all the way down to second gear in the Miata.
Yeah, I would say it's very hard to approach that corner, because right after you turn, you have to already get on the brakes, and you have to make sure the car's straight, otherwise you can get all tail happy and loose.
And this is where you see the MX-5 actually closing on the Mustang. The Mustang hates this part of the racetrack and is much better suited to the large racetracks like Watkins Glen and Daytona we'll be visiting later in this season. You see one of the Mustangs jumping out of the way there, but Taylor expertly working his way through the S's, tracking out, and we got one final corner to go through after we cross underneath this bridge.
Yeah, this is currently the pole sitter for the Miata, as he's currently 11th overall.
And this corner, I would argue, is probably the most important corner of the racetrack, because it leads to a huge straightaway, and the slipstream here, very, very effective, and you're going to see a lot of drivers using it here tonight.
Oh, just now a change for position in the Miata class. DJ Alessandri, he just jumped to the pole position by with a decent lap as well.
Yeah, that Red Bull number 191 ran a 120.304. The best lap time by the Mustang is a 118, so that gap is already down 2 seconds. He's climbed in front of a lot of the Mustangs here. And if you look at the left-hand side of your screen, Finian, it's not organized nicely by yellow and blue. There's a lot of mixed class action heading. Of course, they'll be separated by class at the race start, but the speed difference here is not huge.
Yeah, definitely not. They're definitely the fastest Miatas, and we'll see this in the race too. The fastest Miatas might end up catching the tail end of the Mustang field. Some of the guys who are up to the pace of the leaders. So that should be, and then that's going to be interesting too. Being a Miata trying to pass a Mustang around this track, it's going to be a very interesting dynamic.
There's Kenneth Hauseal there in the number 23 Valvoline Miata working that car. It's so much fun to watch these things whip around here, so low to the ground. Another thing I wanted to keep an eye on here, Finian, is the brake temps in the Mustangs. Those things are big, heavy beasts. They don't like to slow down very much. And in practice, I was watching the brake rotors glowing. And you see Kyle Herbst here in the number 89 Mustang, the nice Volt scheme on there. The brake rotor's already glowing on the front of that Volt Mustang. So you got to keep in mind those brake temps. It's a 72-minute race. That's a long time for these cars to be under such heavy braking.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. You got to manage your stuff here. It shouldn't be too significant as compared to GT cars as far as tire wear is concerned. But I mean, you still don't want to use up all your stuff in your tires and brakes and just equipment overall.
And you see Herbst pulling off the racetrack there. Dave Fitzgerald, the number 91 Mustang, running 7th right now. And another thing here tonight, limited fuel capacity, so there will be a pit stop, most likely just one. The Mustangs, if they have that throttle to the floor a lot, they could see two, but unlikely. Again, you see, look at the brakes glowing, that number 91. You got to keep in mind, the tires, you have to, a little bit of contact there, actually. You have to keep in mind that if you use up those brakes a lot, you will wear out the tires, and you don't want to necessarily take them on the pit stops because you're going to lose a lot of time that way. So I think tire conservation will be important, not so much for the MX-5s, but more for the Mustangs.
Yeah, you can see already just a portion of the huge fuel we have as they all came down the front straightaway.
And as we continue to pick up some more cars around the racetrack, there's Forrest Landy in that number 35 car. And we're just almost halfway through qualifying here, and Michael Monaghan has taken over the top spot in the number 05 Mustang. And Chip,
actually, notably, too, it's only by 5,000ths
wow.
of a second, so it's incredibly close for our minute 18 lap.
And that's the second place car right now, Jeff Jacobs in that 38 Mustang. 5,000 sits at 118.069 to a 118.073 for the top two there. Then we look back at the MX-5 class, and Chip Disharoon there, the number 75, is on point with a 120.1. Richard Spicer about 10th behind and with a 120.260. I think the inter-class interaction is going to be extremely important. We have 40 cars starting this race here tonight, and what that means is that the multi-class interaction is going to be extremely important, especially for the class leaders. Patience is going to be a virtue here. It's a long race. You have time to sit and wait, but I think the Mustangs are going to be able to easily get around the MX-5s on the straightaway, but come to the twisty part of the course, they're going to be a big pain in their side.
Yeah, it's going to be a big pain in their side, especially because the Miata is pretty much faster in this sector right here that we're coming up to, you seeing on screen. So these guys have to kind of plan out their moves and make sure they get ahead of the Miatas before they get here. Otherwise, they're going to have to be pretty much stuck behind them for at least a few more corners after.
Nearly 4,000 pounds of Ford race car here, and they have a big wing on the back, but it doesn't do a whole lot. And these Mustangs, they kind of drive like buses. And having a lot of knowledge about this race car, Finian, they're a lot of fun to drive, but they certainly do have a tendency to understeer and oversteer on throttle, especially in the tighter sections. So you see Jeff Jacobs there expertly hitting the curb. That's another advantage I think the Mustang has over the MX-5, Finian, is the fact that they can take a heck of a lot of curb before you can upset the chassis.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's due to the fact also the Miatas are so light, so they're more prone to reacting a lot more violently to the curbing. You see also the speed differential here heading into turn 1.
But the MX-5, you see the brakes pretty much equal here because whoa, wow, look at that
That was
car.
very close.
That was pretty awesome to watch. But because the Mustangs are going so much faster, they're going to dissipate a lot more brake heat, but really the braking zones are kind of similar. I'd even give the advantage to the MX-5, and especially at the end of the long straightaways. They have a lot less weight to slow down. That's going to be a big factor here tonight.
Looking back at the Miata field up for the front, DJ Alessandri, he just reclaimed the pole sitter spot in that class
by 7,000ths of a second.
And the 75 of Chip
Disharoon. We're gonna until we're told otherwise. That's gonna be his name.
He was holding it and then just passed by 7,000ths of a second. So very close towards the fronts of both fields.
And look at the Mustang field especially. The difference between first through 12 is only 9/10 of a second. So very close there between the first and 12th place Mustang. Yeah, I'm trying to see if I see any familiar names here from Racing Official, but I haven't seen any just yet. Continuing to work our way through qualifying here. About 9 minutes left. And again, you see the Mustangs here. These cars are so hard to slow down. And the other advantage that the MX-5s have here tonight a little bit, Finian, is their transmission's a little bit more forgiving. This Mustang, it's old-fashioned, heel to toe. You have to use clutch on upshift and downshift. You gotta have the throttle blip just right. The MX-5s, you can get away with just left foot braking and blipping, although I think a lot of drivers here tonight, with the experience they've had, it's definitely a lot better on the race car to do it the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, I was gonna say I suck at when it comes to shifting in the Mustangs. I always mess up because I'm so used to shifting with the Miatas, which are similar in some ways, but just like you're saying, the way they actually go through the gears, you need to have a more traditional style with the Mustang. Otherwise, it can definitely hurt you, and the Miatas are definitely more give a lot more leeway.
Yeah, and actually, I drove the MX-5 a lot as well, and as does a lot of people in iRacing, but I think I have actually, I love heel towing. I think it's a great skill to have, but I actually have admittedly gone to the left foot braking technique in the MX-5 just because it's just that much quicker when you have to do less footwork. Of course, it does upset the car a lot less when you do it the right way, but I think the drivers will be doing it the fast way here tonight. The Mustangs, however, have to do it the old-fashioned way. 5-speed transmission in the Mustang. Actually, I believe it is a 6-speed, but you're only going to ever use 5 speeds here. Same thing with the MX-5. And we're here with Dominic Mendil here. And Dominic, how are you? Do you got a copy? And it doesn't look like we have him just yet, but hopefully he'll get his microphone sorted out. But Dominic is a real-life commentator at Summit Point Raceway and has a lot of knowledge about the racetrack. So hopefully once he's got that sorted, we can chat with him a little bit, and he can be our Larry McReynolds, so to speak. I know that name's not super familiar with a lot of drivers of this series. I mentioned that in Discord earlier, and everyone goes, who's he? But but hopefully Dominic can join us here at the booth this evening. An excellent resource to talk to.
Yeah, as you're looking to the front of the field again in the Mustangs, all the top 5 are all within a tenth of each other. And again, as far as road racing is concerned, that's extremely close. As far as these guys are, and I'm actually kind of curious, are these guys running fixed setup here?
I don't believe so. I believe there's some tweakableness, although there's really not a lot you can do to these cars, Finian. Anti-roll bar on the Mustang, tire pressures on the MX-5, just these things are pretty standard built race cars, and honestly, a setup doesn't do you a whole lot of good. I think anyone with the baseline could beat anybody else, if they're just a better driver. So the setup's not what's important here tonight. It's really the driver skill, and we see Jeff Jacobs in that 38 Mustang. He's been out on track for a while and has actually taken the pole away from Michael Monaghan, at least a provisional pole, by about 0.05 of a second. So some more pace out of Jacobs in that 38 car.
All these guys still have a bunch of time left on the clock. They have enough time to make about 4 laps in, so the positions are still subject to change, especially as the track gets rubbered in.
And I gotta make a mention real quick. This is the first race we've done with this group, and the cars on track and the number of people we have watching on YouTube is very, very good. We're very pleased with how tonight's going so far. We haven't even started the race yet, so I hope if you're watching now, you'll stick around. It's a 72-minute race, but of course the start's going to be frantic. 40 cars on track, and there's a lot of Mustangs out there. I believe right now 14, looks like we have about 20 Mustangs, and the rest of the field is all filled out with MX-5. So the first couple laps, and by the time the Mustangs work their way around to the traffic, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Definitely so.
5 minutes left now, and Jacobs and looks like Alessandrini has held on to that top spot in that number 191 in the MX-5 class. And there he is in that Red Bull Mazda. Great looking livery on that car.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I always joke with Kyle. There's almost no paint scheme that the Red Bull livery does not look good on.
And that's pretty much true. I mean, stock cars, F1 cars, you put it on pretty much anything, that's a good looking scheme. But again, here tonight, let's take another look at our race analysis here. 78 degrees Fahrenheit in the air, 87 on the track. So it's actually picked up a couple degrees. Oh, we see Alessandrini going a little bit wide there.
Yeah, I was going to say, with just the sheer amount of cars we have running around, the track temperature is definitely going to pick up at some point.
The rubber is going to pick up as well. One of the things about iRacing, that dynamic rubber is going to pick up in the racing line, and you're going to have lots of marbles offline. And one of the places to talk about marbles is going to be this corner right here. There were some there earlier that got picked up, but I think already, if you look at the curb there, right as it curls back to the left, you can see the rubber beginning to darken that. And the rubber is very grippy. And if you get outside that rubber, you're going to be going for a slippy, slidey disaster in that corner. And with all the high speed we see, it's going to be a trouble spot.
Yeah, definitely. So you can already see too it kind of forming a little bit of a beach on the racing surface. Is already starting to get a little more yellow, I guess, with the sand on it.
Yeah,
so.
I'd actually like to maybe ride on board with the driver here if we can, and get a better look at. We gotta find someone who's on the racetrack right now, but get a better look at. Here we go. At what the conditions are like over there, because the sand is going to be a big deal if it continue. And there's not going to be any restraint when it comes to the outside of that corner, Finian. Whoa, you see Forrest Landy bailing off track, but you're not going to see a lot of people avoiding that. It's not really slow to run outside wide over that curb. It's actually a little bit quicker than staying to the inside. So that's going to be a very sandy corner. Here as well on corner exit, you see the rumble strip there carrying all the way out. A little bit of sand there, probably by about the midway point in the race.
Yeah, so let's try to sit on this Kyle Herbst, I believe that's the name again.
Yep.
Apologize, there are 40 of you guys, and we know very few of you guys as far as familiar names. So we're gonna do the best we can tonight. But yeah, Kyle Herbst in 89. He's currently in 6th, trying to put another lap in.
All right. So as we continue down this straightaway, hey, Dominic, you there? You got a copy? I heard him for a second.
Yeah, I heard him as well.
All right, anyway, as we work right through the corner here, look at the beach on the left here. All that sand, that's gross stuff. You don't want to get on your tires, and you see Herbst is going to add to that. So not going to be great later in the race when you get up your tires up into that gross stuff there. A little bit slippery, and then down onto the brakes into the hairpin, turn 5, and look at all the rubber. It's already blackened up.
I was going to say, it's already blackened up, but we still haven't gone to the race yet, and same with this corner as well.
Hey, there's Dominic. How are you, buddy? We got you. All right, Dominic. Well, we're here tonight at Summit Point Raceway, and we know you've got a lot of knowledge about this racetrack. So just walk us through a lap here at Summit Point Raceway and tell us what it's like to take a sports car around this venue.
Doing great. How are you?
All right. Well, you got a copy again, buddy? Looks like it's almost like he's a little delayed there.
Yeah.
We'll hopefully get this sorted out, and hopefully we can talk to Dominic again. But
this is a track that really suits a lot of different cars. My father and I were actually talking about this the other night. Really isn't a particular layout of vehicle that suits Summit Point well. You can have an all-wheel drive, you can have a front-wheel drive or a rear-wheel drive car, and no matter what the layout car you have, you can get on a solid lap time.
And as we ride on board with one of the Mustangs right now, Dominic, what's the difference in terms of, well, you see Kyle Herbst getting a little bit sideways there out in turn 5. What's the difference in driving this track with a heavy car versus a light one? Where is the heavy car fast and the light car fast? All right, well, we're going to bail on that. It looks like we're having some microphone trouble there with Dominic.
In this case, the Mustangs, with all their power, are going to be fast down the straightaways. Also have a lot more acceleration out of the turns. The MX-5 cars, they're going to really gain their advantage with turn 3, which is an uphill tander, and then in the carousel, turn 6, and the S's of 7, 8, and 9. So a better balance on the MX-5s is something that's going to strengths. And so what we're seeing here is that all the cars, even though they're only about 3 or 4 seconds between each other, are going to really make up their time on different parts of the course. That's what makes this type of racing so exciting.
All right, thanks, Dominic. And as we conclude qualifying here, Andrew Pilata in the number 96 is going to have pole for the Mustang class, and DJ Alessandrini is going to get pole in the MX-5 class. And the best lap time for the Mustang, a 1:18 flat, and for the Miata, a 1:20.151. And that will conclude qualifying here at Summit Point Raceway, and we're about to get ready to grid for 72 minutes around this racetrack. And looks like we have about 20 Mustangs, but most of them, the top 16, are all going to be gridded together here as the checkered flag flies. We'll get ready. Actually, we're going to have about 2 minutes left to let drivers finish up their laps here. But Dominic, when we talk about strategy here, it's a 72-minute race, so it's a little bit longer than just a normal sprint race. So limited fuel in the cars tonight. Do you want to pit early and just try to make it to the end, or do you want to pit later and maybe take a shorter fuel fill?
I think pitting early in this case would this the safer thing to do. And in an event, as you mentioned, 72 minutes, you're gonna have later would probably be more of a gamble, I would think. So, so I would base your strategy on where your opponents are positioned on the track, the time that you pit, then basically how see on your fuel load and all your parts, how it will work. So I think it's safe would be pitting early and more of a risk would be pitting late. We'll see how all these drivers manage their strategies as this race goes on.
All right. Well, thank you, Dominic. And I realize why we're having so many issues. It's Dominic, can you join us up here in Discord because the YouTube is on about a 15 to 20-second delay. So if you could jump over onto Discord and take your audio from there, it'll probably help us out with the communications part. And hopefully we'll see you down here in just a second. Anyway, qualifying's concluded here, and Andrew Pilato will be starting on the pole. We do have a graphic to show the gridding, but with 40 cars here, we're gonna have to start it immediately. It's gonna be a long way around. Hopefully the pace lap takes a long time.
I was gonna say we're gonna hopefully between the 2 minutes of gridding that these guys need and the pace lap, it should cycle through all of them. But yeah, again, huge grid here of guys, and hopefully all of them make it to the end. Although it's very unlikely after a 72-minute event, but you know you can never hope enough for it.
All right, and Dominic, are you down here in Discord yet? Hopefully you can join us down in Discord, and we'll have them nice and live and not on the 20-second delay. I was trying to figure out what was going on there with the communications, but looks like we'll get it sorted out. Anyway, field is gridding. We're going to run your starting lineup along the bottom of your screen. Andrew Pilata and Jeff Jacobs starting on the front row in the Ford FR500S Mustangs. And you'll see that scroll through. Michael Monaghan, Forrest Landy making up oh, there he is. There's Dominic. How are you, bud?
Doing great.
Okay, there we go. We're good. All right, so now that we're getting ready to go gridding here, a field size of 40 around here, Dominic, that's a pretty big field. So what do drivers, especially the Mustangs, have to worry about when they come around to almost 30 MX-5s? How are you going to navigate that traffic?
Track awareness is definitely going to be key here, especially with bigger Mustangs trying to navigate through some of the slower Miatas. And what we see in the Mars series a lot is cars with different sizes racing alongside one another. So groups like our small bore group that we have in the Mars series of cars really having to be aware of who's around them, because we have, for instance, in our small bore group with Legends cars, which are the really small, which are our smallest cars, smallest production-based cars, and then we have a lot much bigger cars as well. So basically, what happens is you have to be really aware of what they're doing and be able to adjust accordingly. And now with 40 cars on the track, it's going to probably get crowded in places, and the cars are going to really have to either be aware of who's around them or make sure that they're staying out of each other's way to avoid any kind of trouble on track. So it's going to present a challenge, but I think drivers will be able to handle that challenge well, as long as they're looking out for who's around them.
All right, so as we continue now on the pace lap here, looks like we will actually get through. I was vigilant getting the graphic up there so we can get through all the starters here tonight. Working now down on, looks like that's going to be row 15, Eric Jones and John Sainz there, the 51 and 195. But the Mustangs out up front, Michael Monaghan in that number 05 was a threat in qualifying and came up just one spot short of the pole there. So we're going to get ready to go racing here. Jeff Jacobs in that 38 was your Mustang pole sitter. The classes will separate for the start, but they're not going to get separate green flags. They're going to go right at the green flag for the Mustang. So the MX-5s can go. They're probably going to be somewhere near turn 9 or 10 when they finally get that green flag. So the Mustang's rolling around right now. 72 minutes, about 56 laps of racing here tonight. And as we work our way along the backside of the course down into turn 5, this is going to be your primary passing zone. There's a heavy braking zone as well. But as we work our way down here, Finian, the rubber is going to pick up. And what's difficult about the rubber when we talk about working into it later in the race?
Well, typically with the rubber, it'll help you earlier on, but at some point the track will be too rubbered in. And what'll happen at that point where it's pretty much there's not going to be as much grip left on that line as compared to some other lines through the corners. You might try to see some guys maybe take the corner in a slightly different approach. I doubt it, considering just the nature of road course racing. It's probably shouldn't affect them that much, but more importantly, it might make the cars a lot more slidey and slippery when they're going through there.
I'm sure they're not going to want a whole lot of slidey and slippery because it's already going to be pretty greasy out there, especially with the temperature that these cars are putting into the racetrack. But now the pace car working its way over towards turn 10 is going to pull off into pit lane, and we're going to turn these guys loose. Jeff Jacobs in that 38 car will be starting on the inside of that front row, and we'll have actually, he looks like he's on the outside. Looks like he is taking that outside lane, and we'll have choice here. Rolling around, 72 minutes for the virtual Mid-Atlantic Racing Series, and out of the final corner, a long stretch to that start-finish line, and that green flag just getting ready to wave. They're waiting on it, and they're going to wait all the way till that green flag flies before they can go. There it is, green flag in the air here at Summit Point. And realize one thing, that's going to show 11 minutes left. It's an hour and 11 minutes. Little ATVO glitch there, but don't worry about that. We're green here at Summit Point.
And there you see, I think the 35, he's going to dive down in line out of, I believe, third place, and here he comes trying to look for the lead.
And lots of cars here, Finney, and a huge field heading down to the first corner, but the Mustangs make it through. Let's head on back to the MX-5s. A little bit of contact there. The 4-car of Richard Spicer getting a piece of it. Wow, we got a Mustang.
Yeah.
That's Francois Brou there going way over the embankment.
He's going to try to get that thing turned around, and he's going to, I think he's caught in the fence there.
Yeah, he's caught in the fence. That's going to be a DNF for him, unfortunately, but we work our way down towards turn 5 now for the first time. Jeff Jacobs in that 38 car leading the race. And there's that Volt car. I believe that's... Oh, there's contact!
Wow.
Herps into the wall as well
Hard.
as... That's, is that... Michael Monaghan there in the 05 car, Finney, and huge implications at the start of this race.
And that's 3 cars already retired in the Mustang field.
Challenge for the lead.
And it looks like the 38 got a slowdown almost or something, or just got a bad exit, but he's going to lose 3 positions in one corner and new leader. And that's a 35 of Forrest Landy that's going to take the lead of this race.
Forrest Landy in that 35 car jumps out to an early lead here. Ida Waxman is going to be in 4th place, but they're going to actually climb the order here as those cars that retire to the pits are going to drop down. And let's head them back to the MX-5 field here, Finney. They have not lost any ground to the Mustangs.
No, if anything, they've actually stuck right with them. And actually, speaking of sticking right with someone, there you go. There's a little bump draft from the 23 of Housel. And Spicer ahead of him is going to lead them down into turn 1.
All right, and Dominic, we want to talk about patience here a little bit, and I know it says 10 minutes are left, but we have an hour and 10 left, but, you know, when you're trying to be patient in MX-5, when's the right time to go? You can sit behind a car and save fuel all day within the draft, but do you go now and get your track position here, or do you wait later in the race to make your move?
All the drivers in MX-5, I would definitely wait later on in the race. We've seen at the Mars series with the Mazdas, his dividends at the end of the race is being patient, finding a drafting partner, and staying with that partner throughout the race, regardless of whether they decide to make a move or whether they decide to tug in behind someone else. So what's really going to matter is where you're positioned with probably 5 laps to go in the race or as time winds down. So finding a guy that's willing to work with you, that may be familiar with from having raced before, someone you know you can trust, be with you to the end, is what's going to pay dividends at the end. So, because usually the winning move isn't made till the second or the last lap. So patience, even though it goes against the driver's instinctive to wait, can pay dividends if the driver is willing to sit, study what's going on around them, and wait till the closing stages of the race to make their decisive move.
All right, yeah, so certainly going to want to find a partner here, but let's head back up to the Mustangs. Then Forrest Landy continues to lead in the Mustang class. Ida Waxman behind. Andrew Pilata in that 96 is sitting in 3rd place, and Khalil Katirboff there in that number 19, that bright pink car. That's a sight to see there, Finian.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering what's happening with the 38 of Jacobs. He's looks like he's been off the pace since the start, and he led these guys to green and was leading the first half a lap. But then he just ended up falling back now. He's all the way back in 5th, so I kind of wonder if he's maybe just kind of sitting in for the long run here, or if he's just kind of off the pace at the moment.
Yeah, looks like it might be a little bit of a combination of both. But the other thing, Finian, is these MX-5s are actually working through a little bit of Mustang traffic, and it's cleared up just a little bit, but that's got to be a distraction early in the race, no?
Oh, it's definitely got to be a distraction, and I can't imagine the 92 Don Manning, who was one of those Mustangs, who's getting passed by the rest of the field here.
So you see Kenneth House-Seal there, the number 23, right behind Richard Spicer, just kind of biding his time here. And Steve Salisbury, I believe, has gone off the racetrack in that number 32 Miata. You see him dropping down the order there as he's retired back to the pits. And you see the tire marks there on wide on corner exit. See the yellow car. Is that maybe a DJ Ellis? Or actually, excuse me, I'm trying to find what car that is. And it looks like to be the 98 of Sam Scott with Harris on the side. That's actually a local company to me. That's pretty cool to see. So Sam Scott alongside Eric Jones there in the 51. They're going to battle down off into turn 1.
Yeah, side by side there, you can see these guys try to outbrake each other as they go into the corner. The 51's got the more preferred line. The 98 looks like he's going to surrender that. But here comes that red car behind him. I believe the 99 of Elias Roman. He's going to be behind trying to make a pass.
That's right on board with Elias Roman here as we work our way. Look at them blocking down up into turn 3 here. That left-hander, you got to be careful not to get up over that curb too much. It'll upset the car, drift out wide. You see Roman getting a little bit sideways off over the curb.
And here comes the 98. It looks like they're racing with 7 minutes to go. They're going to be side by side heading down, I believe, turn 5. And you see the 98 wide because he's able to break
crashing
doors. The 51. Hard impact with the 51 and the 98. I'm not sure how his car is handling the ball.
So Sam Scott involved in a collision there, and that's just a typical wreck down there in turn 5. You get a little bit wide on the corner entry, lock up the brakes, and you can't do anything on that grass. It's very slippery.
Yeah, I was talking about it's a hard corner to brake for, especially when you're side by side. If you don't get on the brakes early enough, you can definitely regret it. And there you saw he went wide into the grass and ended up paying the price for it.
And the lead for the MX-5s is still a pretty intense battle here. Spicer and House-Seal running nose to tail about a tenth apart down the front straightaway. 115 miles an hour for these MX-5s. That's actually pretty quick.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty quick. So it's Spicer, House-Seal, Ruben, and Darling, this forward group. They've kind of broken away from the rest of the pack.
Oh, there's a Mustang deep in the brakes there. That's actually, I thought it was your leader, Forrest Landy, but Don Manning.
I think a teammate. They have the same paint scheme. I'm going to assume they're teammates. He's going to try to work back up to the field. He got passed by some of the Miatas, and he's trying to work back around them.
Yeah, and this is going to be a big distraction for those MX-5 cars here, Finian, as we see Manning, really, right now his best time is a 120.854, and the problem is all the Miatas around him running that exact same pace.
Yeah, so they're all running that exact same pace, and they're all right behind each other and fighting for position. So it's going to be kind of hard for him to kind of stick a nose there and interrupt because none of them want to yield any ground at this moment in time.
All right, let's see the brake rotors glowing on that number 92 of Don Manning. And actually, I want to get Dominic's opinion on this here, Finian. When you're in a 72-minute race, Dominic, you have to consider saving your equipment and not being too hard on your brakes. So if you're a Mustang driver, it's very heavy, those cars. So what can you do to save your tires and brakes and keep your car in good contention for the end of it?
You can do one of the smartest things to do, especially in a car this heavy like the Mustang, is to take a few laps just to let everything settle down. Don't try to put down flyers lap after lap because you said that's going to use up your equipment, especially in a heavier car. So take some time, take care of your equipment because you don't have to necessarily have the strongest car right now. You have a long race to play out. And once you've saved your equipment, you'll have a much stronger car for the end of the race and allow you the chance to attack and gain positions once race winds down, and that's where the positions can be best gained.
All right, so some good insight there about maybe saving your stuff a little bit, Finian. And again, these Miatas and the FR500 Mustang, you really want to dive into the corner. You want to be aggressive. They're cars they're very chuckable cars. When you compare these things to something of a higher value, like a GT3 car or a prototype, those cars are on the knife's edge. These cars, you can kind of slide them around. They have a lot of mechanical grip and not a lot of aero, so they're not on that knife's edge. But how does that change how you drive this car? Late in a race, especially when you're trying to defend your position.
I think what it kind of gives you makes you a little bit braver as far as where you think you can plant the car, and definitely you can. That's kind of one of the things I love from this new gen of Miata that we got as compared to the old MX-5 that we previously had. I'm not sure which actual generation number that is, but yeah, these cars are a lot more nimble than their predecessors, and it really makes for some fun racing. And you could see guys, especially late in the race when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, make some desperate moves, and you could honestly make it stick. But again, like you're saying, anytime you're racing like this, you're on that knife's edge, and you don't want to go just over separate boundaries, otherwise you can end up wrecking your car.
And riding on board now with David Graver there. Started 13th in class, is now currently 18th in class, 33rd overall, working his way through. There's Calvin Wong and the number 100 right in front of him. John Sainz just up the road, a little bit wide there for the number 195. And looks like the Mustang field has gotten a little bit separated out, about a second lead between the top two guys. But here's Dennis Barrett and David Alessi, then 10th and 11th in class and overall. A little bit of bumping and banging back here. It's almost like a Martinsville race in NASCAR.
Yeah, I was going to say, these guys are just so tight together, and some of these corners are really narrow, so you might end up just running just a little bit into someone here and there. A little bump's not going to hurt you. A big bump will, but you just kind of have to manage that. You see the 34 hauling.
that car was in four-wheel drift mode there for a second.
Not my car of drifting choice, but he's going to make it work anyway.
Looks like a police chase. He's got a nice police department skin on that Mustang.
Yeah,
and
all he needs is the lights to make it work.
I think he wants lights right now, trying to get around the MX-5s, but there he is working around. That was one of the cars that was involved in a collision earlier. I don't remember the number on it, but yeah, pretty intense racing. Remember, it shows 2 minutes left. It's actually an hour and 2 minutes. That's something we got to get sorted out for next week. We haven't done a road race this long before, so that's how we didn't discover that, but now we know. Working our way now through, and let's head back up to the Mustang lead. We haven't been here in a while. Forrest Landy in that 35 car, out up front by 0.8 of a second, but Andrew Pallotta has been slowly reeling him in and was a 10th quicker last time at the line.
I would say, again, he only has to make up just a few hundredths, maybe a few tenths here and there, and he should be good. But again, just remaining within a second or so of the leader, it's some great pace that he's showing. And it's still, again, anyone's race at this point in time. We're very early into the event, only just over 10 minutes through it. So he's got a lot of time to work with, and if he can keep this pace, at least stick, or at least have Landy within his sights, he's making some good time.
I love this gyro shot here. We're just riding just below the dashboard level here in this Mustang with a camera mounted on one of the roll bars. You can see how much bumps and alterations there is in the track surface around here. And Dominic, I'm curious as to what your opinion is on what's the sketchiest corner in terms of the bumps around this racetrack.
In terms of bumpiness, in fact, this track actually got repaved this year, so it was retreated to a much smoother surface and much more runoff room to put down and let the track out. In terms of bumpiness, I think that turn 3 most likely because trying to apex a blind turn, and essentially what you're doing is you overstep that turn a little bit, you'll end up throwing gravel. That really affects grip. It's a lot more noticeable as the race goes on. Your tires start picking up a lot of that clag, so drivers have to be worried about is making sure they can see gravel or realize that it's there, stay off the surface or that area as best they can, because the area can become slippery and bumpy and really affect your lap time and also affect where you're positioned on track. So able to avoid that gravel is best. So up to turn 3 is where I think most grip issues are on this track for any kind of car that you may be in.
All right, so Dominic just mentioned the gravel thinning we were talking about in the qualifying session was how much that was going to be affecting the grip later in the race. And you see tire tracks there on the far side of the course. Drivers been running off here a little bit, and we haven't seen a ton of accidents. There's only 4 cars actually retired from the race, which is amazing considering how many started. But you see the gravel, Finian, how do you get that stuff off your tires?
Yeah, you kind of got to just do a little bit of bobbing and a little bit of weaving, just kind of trying to rub the dirt off of it. Usually comes off on its own, but if you really needed the grip right then, you might have to weave down the straightaway a little bit to clear off all that dirt, because it can really, that extra dirt can make you lose grip. You see the 34 sent it in there, and I'm trying to see who that is. The 15 gave him quite a bit of room.
Yep, so that was David Alessi getting around Daniel Richardson, the 34 swapping places with the 15. You see the brake rotors already glowing on both these cars. A little bit of right front damage to that number 34 car as well. Oh, back up front here for the Mustangs, Finney. We got a race on our hands, 0.4 of a second. Andrew Pallotta is chasing down Landy here, and with 59 minutes to go, we got to start thinking. We've been in this race for about 13, 14 minutes, and you're starting to get an idea of who's got what pace, and I think Pallotta is looking pretty quick right now.
Yeah, he's got quite a bit of pace now. I kind of wonder, though, what's going to be on his mind. Does he want to try to pass the 35 of Landy, or does he want to try to sit behind him? Because he can try to make the pass, but I don't know if he's quick enough to make the pass cleanly, or quickly, I should say, before the 19 behind of Khalil Tierboff gets up to him.
Yeah, and you mentioned, Finian, passing cleanly and being able to do it quickly. That's an important factor, especially when you consider all the traffic out on this racetrack. You see, I believe, is that the number 27 up there, David Graver? It is indeed. So Graver here is in 20th in class, 37th overall. He's got the Mustang leaders behind him. And when you talk about passing quickly, if you're the second place car of Pilata, you're going to take that and look at that and go, hey, there's a Miata. I'm going to use him as a pick and get around Forrest Landy for the lead. You actually see the 27 of Graver pulling off out of the way and letting the Mustang leaders by. Nice, well thought out decision there. Racing his own race right now. I like that.
Yeah, I was going to say I love it when drivers do that, although I don't think we're going to see too much more of that as everyone's trying to race and hold their own position. You see the 19 with quite a bit of
we got a car off track there, Finian. And
that's 27.
Was it the 27 again? I believe it was, yeah. So, but I want to take a look, riding on board with Ido Waxman here off the nose. That 19 up in front of him has definitely gotten a bump from somebody.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out who. Actually, this is the 37 now, so no
I don't
damage.
think so. I don't think it's been... a little bit. That could be. But I think these two cars have been together at some point or another, and they see the 37 aggressively driving in. I think we know now, but yeah, certainly a little bit of bumping and banging. That's just kind of the nature. This is like a short track in terms of road racing. When you consider places like Watkins Glen or Daytona, Sebring, Road Atlanta, those places are big, and this place lends itself to a little bit more bumping and banging.
I would say the corners have tight radiuses, and the track's also fairly narrow as well. So this kind of lends to that style race. 37 try to get a nose in there. Couldn't get it done. The 19 cuts him off, and Natirbov's going to maintain that position. And
we have a new leader in the MX-5s here, Finian, and Kenneth Hausil has taken it over. And the guy that was leading, was it DJ Alessandrini, or was it...
Yeah, Alessandrini never caught up. He's been chasing these guys.
Who was the leader before?
I thought it was Hausil. Maybe Ruben? One of those two.
There definitely had been a position swap here, and I'm worried about who it was, because I was pretty sure they were... Oh, it was the blue car back there. It was Alessandrini. Or no, Richard Spicer is who it was. That's who it was. Again, new names here tonight, so forgive us for not knowing people off the top of our heads. Hopefully we'll get better at that as time goes on.
Well, one thing I want to say to this, since we're talking about these guys, Alessandrini, he was about 3 to 4 seconds behind these guys, maybe even more, but he's caught all the way back up with these leaders. He's past Spicer, he's past Darling, now he's trying to look ahead to... Oh, just a car that just went off the track.
Oh, it was the... I was just trying to find out who it was there, Finian. Devin Taylor, number 26, is retired. Let's get a look at that replay. It wasn't him, actually. Who was that?
It's one of the leaders. I just saw someone go spinning.
Well, we got to find out who it was.
Oh, Ruben, I think. Zach Ruben in the 7.
All right, give us a moment and we will try to grab that incident there. It was indeed. And let's take another look at it. Here's a replay of the number 7 is Zach Ruben going off track.
Yeah, and he was just falling behind the 23s.
Oh, clips the grass on the right there, Finian, on corner entry. And slips and goes for a wild ride. Does he keep it out of the barrier? Nope, but bounced right off of it. The tires are good here.
Let's say use that as momentum there. Some physics. So, and he bounced back off, and he's going to try to chase down these guys again. He's about 7 seconds from that lead Miata pack, so he's got some work to do to try to catch back up to them, and so does Pilata.
Wow,
now
look at Landy
96.
drifting on the exit of the corner, and you mentioned it, Finian. Pilata is really chasing down that leader. And nose to tail as they work their way through the S's. Got to watch those curbs. They're big and tall here. But Landy trying to... Actually, has David Alessi gone off track?
Retired.
Just recently, though, here, Finian.
Oh, yeah.
Gone off racetrack. I think that was just calling it quits.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm kind of wondering if he might have gotten into Jacobs. Or, sorry, not Jacobs. He was racing... Oh, where's Natirbov? Yeah, he's in... He's all the way back in... So something happened.
Natirbov has gotten Natir bumped, I think. I know it was a terrible joke, but bear with me, Finian. I'm working on my humor here. And we're going to try to go by and back and figure out what happened to him.
Yeah.
It was a ways back, it looks like.
Yeah.
Oh, here it is. We found it right here. And this was off the bumper of the car he was battling earlier, out of Waxman here. And here's the replay of it, going straight down the straightaway. Oh, just two cars coming together there, Finian. Just didn't give each other enough room.
Yeah, unfortunately, looks like Natirbov was able to save that. I don't think he got any damage, maybe a little bit.
Not any more than he had, at least.
Yeah, left on the left side door, but it's still running. He's going to be running in 6th at the moment.
Yeah, so a little bit of running into there, and I think we're not done seeing that incident just yet. I think if that 19 gets back up to the 37, we could see a little argy-bargy, as one would say. But look at DJ Alessandrini chasing down Kenneth Hausil now, Finian 0.4 of a second between the Miata leaders.
I was going to say, he started or fell a little ways back on the initial start. He's caught all the way back up to these leaders. Now he's trying to look for first place. It's a matter of where can he get it, because that 23 has been pretty strong so far. All
right, as we watch this battle for the lead, I do want to ask Dominic another thing here, Finian. Dominic, when you're involved in an incident on track here, what's the the response as if you've wrecked somebody? How do you apologize after the race? Do you let them get the spot back? What's the typical thing that you guys do down there in the SCCA?
Depending on the situation, typically what ends up happening is usually, in my opinion, usually the best way to resolve things is not on track. So best to not try to retaliate or do anything that would jeopardize yourself or safety of other people. And in terms of solving the situation afterward, I think that discussing it would be the best thing to do. And we see a lot of our drivers just in the heat of moments end up having things go with their car over to a braking zone, accidentally make contact with another driver, and things happen in racing. So everyone's aware of the fact that mistakes will happen. Drivers may overstep or not just a little bit off. So best thing to do is make sure you find that person after the race if you feel comfortable. Some drivers, with tempers still running hot after the race, may still not be very up to talking. But if you can put them in a good state of mind, and I think the best thing to do is to go up and talk it out, and then we typically make sure that we address all these things to make sure that we don't have things like this happen in the future, and that's how everyone stays friendly, and that's how the racing can continue to be fierce, clean at the same time.
All right, thanks, Dominic. And yeah, so while we were watching that, there was an exchange for the lead, and Andrew Pilata has gotten around Forrest Landy for that Mustang lead right now, and that puts 96 up to the top spot. And interestingly, Landy was quicker earlier in the race by about 0.2 of a second, but now that everything's changed up, it looks like the pace has changed around, and Pilata's just a little bit quicker. They're coming up on some Miata traffic here, Finney. Let's go to the view from up above and see how they're going to get around all this.
I was going to say, it looks like they're approaching the thick of the Miata field, and there you see them bobbing and weaving through traffic there. They're trying to get around all this, and you see that the 35 is trying to not...
that was the 4-car Spicer. Oh, no, it wasn't. Trying to figure out who that was there, Finney. Calvin Wong, no. Oh, it was Chris Herbert, maybe, potentially? Yeah, but you mentioned it, Finian. Pretty crazy action there. One guy, I have to say this name at least once here, Finian. The 8-car, Francois Flipsky. That is the coolest name I've ever heard in my entire life. That is awesome. So, Francois Flipsky. I enjoy that name very much. And running 9th in class right now and 23rd overall. A good day for Flipsky so far. And we're trying to find some more battles throughout the field. And right now, everyone's kind of sorted out, getting into their own race, but the Mustang battle continues to rage.
Yeah, actually, looking here, Natirov, it looks like he's catching 5th place.
A little bit of a contact there driving down into the corner. You mentioned it, 5th place, though, Natirov, and chasing down Paul Gibson in that number 31. Haven't mentioned him here today, but having a great run right now. 5th in class, trying to defend it from Natirov.
Yeah, and again, Natirov coming off that spin that he had off of, I believe, Ido Waxman in the 37. So he's trying to chase back any positions he can, and he's looking on, breaking back into the top 5, and he's all over the back bumper now, the 31 of Gibson. And Gibson's trying to defend.
Heading down towards turn 5. Remember, a very high-speed area that you get on the brakes real hard here, and you see both those Mustangs kind of clambering over to the left side of the track. You have to get yourself as far back right as you can so you can apex that corner correctly. But now a battle for 5th in the Mustang class, the 31 and the 19.
Yeah, that's a hard corner to try to make a pass on, because if you try to go on the inside on the entry into this kind of a arena section, I guess to say. I can't
the
think
S's is what they're called.
Yeah, I was trying to think of a better name for it, but yeah, the S's. You get put on the outside in the next corner. As you saw Natirov, he had to try to do the over-under, but just couldn't get it done on Gibson.
And remember, the Mustangs don't really do very well in those tight and twisty sections, but this is where they really excel. And you're going to see Natirov really try to prioritize that exit speed. Now 2/10 behind. We'll get a pretty decent slipstream, but you kind of need a little bit more space than this front straightaway has to offer, at least for the Mustangs. The MX-5s get a great pull down this front straight.
Yeah, we'll see, does Natirov try to look out? He does look out, but just not enough to really make a lunge. He's going to settle in and try to maybe use this Miata ahead as a pick to try to make a pass. Let's see what he does.
And the Miata's and a couple Mustangs up ahead that they're trying to chase down, but the Miata's going to pull over and swap that spot. So as we head now towards turn 3, you got to carefully, that's a blind corner here, can't see a whole lot. Natirov goes to the right. You see some dust flying up ahead from some other cars jumping off the racetrack, but we continue now. And Jeff Jacobs is trying to defend from a hard-charging vehicle there. That's actually, or excuse me, Waxman and Jacobs are the ones that are close together there.
Yeah,
but
so this is 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th in the Mustang class, all racing for position here. So they're all very close together and still going at it.
Look at this battle here, Finian. This
Yeah,
is the
speaking of
MX-5s.
Yeah,
This is the DJ Alessandrini up there in the Red Bull car is your leader. This is a great spat here for first through, looks like, first through fourth.
Yeah.
That's the 155 of Paul Darling with Harris on the side of that car. Richard Spicer, they almost got contact there together, but they're going to work their way down towards turn 5.
Yeah, they're going to continue going at it. They're right on each other's back bumpers, and you got to be careful to breaking into this section, because you got to watch out where the guy ahead of you breaks. If you end up missing it by just a split second, you can end up rear-ending him and ending potentially both of your races.
Yeah, you really are threshold braking at the latest possible opportunity down into turn 5. If you miss it, I've done this before. We did this to each other in a hosted session. We ran each other off the racetrack. It's such a fine line. Really, the best way to do that is get around that right-hand kink and then stamp on the brakes as soon as your car is straightened out, but sometimes you miss it by an inch, and that's all it takes. We've already seen one car, I believe it was Zach Rubin, just behind these guys, get off track heading into turn 3 earlier, but just by clipping the grass a little bit. You see Darling running a little bit wide off the corner, and that's going to open him up to Richard Spicer's attack down the front straight. And here you go, see him going for the move.
Yeah, here he goes. He got that nice draft down the front straightaway into turn 1. They go side by side. Spicer's going to try to outbrake him. He's got the better line rear, but wow.
Oh, impressive braking by Paul Darling, and that's actually going to bring Zach Rubin into the picture here as well. He's closing up.
That's not Zach Rubin.
That's, never mind. That's
that was the
wrong car.
Yeah.
But as we continue now, Zach Rubin's behind about 10 seconds from this group, so that's why Finian corrected me there. But Paul Darling trying to chase down Kenneth Hausil, who's just up the road there in that Valvoline car, and that's the battle for the lead right now in the MX-5 class, separated by 0.2 of a second.
I was going to say, these guys have not been able to get separated this entire top 4.
Oh.
There's Spicer going for a spin.
Oh, he's going to slide all the way down into the middle of turn 5, and he's going to keep it off the racetrack into the inside of the curb. Excellent job to slow that car down, but a rough and bumpy transition back onto the racetrack. I don't think he'll even lose a spot here because he had a pretty big advantage over that number 7 car.
They actually just got passed by him. No, that wasn't him.
Correct. Yeah, I told you, Rubin's hard to find, man. But let's go back and take a look at it. I don't actually ride on board with the Forrest Spicer here. And around the outside of the 40, and is there contact there?
Oh, that was netcode. That was a lot of netcode.
And again, let's explain netcode to those that aren't super familiar with iRacing here, Finney. Netcode's when iRacing has a prediction system that predicts where your car is going to be because of internet lag, and so if that gets that prediction wrong, you might see some ghost contact here. And I believe the 40 and the 4, by several feet.
Yeah, you could fit a full car between both of them. So yeah, I was kind of wondering where he ended up getting that right side damage because I didn't see him actually hit anyone.
Battle for the lead here, Finian and the MX-5, side by side, Alessandrini and Hausil.
Yeah, this is Alessandrini, I believe. No, actually, this is 23 of Hausil trying to get that position back. But looks like the 191 is going to take it and hold it right now at the moment. But here comes Hausil. Now he's got to run. Will he try to make a pass going to 5?
It's such a tricky place to make a pass. Will he look to the inside? You see the line rubbering up, so you can't venture too far out of that line. Look at them both sliding down into the corner on the brakes. And continuing a great battle for the lead. And we mentioned it earlier, Dominic was talking about it. If you want to find a drafting buddy, and these guys were drafting for sure, but I think Hausil wants that lead back.
Well, I'm definitely sure he wants it. I mean, again, all he has to do is just kind of stick with the 191. But again, I'm sure these guys aren't settled or satisfied with just running in second. I think the 23 definitely wants that lead.
And riding on board now with the 23 of Hausil as we work our way through the final corner underneath the bridge. And then just a tap on the brakes, maybe a downshift, maybe not. We'll keep it in gear and jump the curbs here on corner exit, run all the way wide out of the rumble strip, and gather some speed for the front straight. We might have an attack down into turn 1.
Yeah, I would say let's watch on board and let's just watch the draft and its effect. There you see that's just purely draft that he's catching, and he actually looks like he's backed off. And I thought he was going to try to potentially make the pass on Alessandrini, but looks like he's going to keep on waiting on it.
And he'll sit on it again here and see a tall curb there on the inside of turn 1. And speaking of curbs, I'm a big fan of them, but Dominic, I want to ask you in terms of the curbing around here in the smaller cars versus the heavier cars, what is something that the Mustangs can do with the curbs that the smaller cars can't? Is it the Mustangs just heavier, there's more dampening over the curbs, or is it just the MX-5s are just too light to handle the curbs that are about a foot high around here?
I think for the Mustangs, crashing the curves won't bother them as much, and with the MX-5s, I think it will a little bit more just because they're a little bit lighter. So the things that both these cars are going to have to be aware of is that I think too much curb could result in having your car get set, and so if there's someone around you, they have to be aware of where you are to make sure that nothing happens on track. So In terms of going over the curbs, I actually bother either of these cars too much. Of course, anytime you up on two wheels, you're losing grip and to be able just not to go over too much, or else you'll end up with a situation where you're using your car rather than dancing with it. So please be careful of the curbs. They can be good to use in order to a little bit better in terms of pace, but just be sure you don't crash those curbs too much, because you want to stay on track and you want to have your car be healthy for the end.
All right, thanks, Dominic. And so, yeah, keeping track of your car's condition and being careful not to damage your suspension as we take a look for, looks like...
the 19 of Nachirbov. He looks like he's gotten around Walksman.
Yeah, and I wonder if there's going to be... no damage to the nose of that number 19 cars. Looks like it was done clean.
I was going to say, Walksman had about a 5 or
so deep dive into the corner for the 37.
I was going to say, he had a significant lead ahead over this group because he was pretty far ahead of this kind of group of guys. So I'm kind of wondering if something happened to him where he ended up falling back behind. But you see him trying to hold off Gibson now, who's trying to charge him for 5th place.
Yeah, Paul Gibson lost that spot earlier in the race and is... wants to get it back. He was 5th running earlier, and meanwhile, all this is kind of separated out a little bit in terms of the Mustang field. The top spot is separated about at 1.1 seconds. It's the biggest gap it's been, but the gap between the 31 and the 37 right here in frame is the closest battle we've got right now.
Yeah, and I was going to say, after Walksman falling from 3rd, that's moved Jeff Jacob back up into 3rd. And he again fell off the initial start, and now is finally back in the top 3. And Nachirbov back where he was running in 4th.
So we got about 41 minutes left here, Finian, and when are we going to start thinking about pit stops? I mean, we've made it about 30 minutes or so you got about 41 left. You can try to split this race down the halfway point?
I think that's probably the best way to do it. Again, these guys don't have to do it. I doubt they're going to pit for tires, because changing tires on these things takes an eternity. So they're probably just going to fill it up with fuel and get on their way. You see the 92 of...
Don Manning there around spinning and trying to figure out where that is. I believe that's the exit of turn 1.
Yeah.
Oh, major damage there, Finian. Looks like...
The wheel locked up somehow?
Yeah, the rear wheel locked up. Rear suspension damage, that number 92. Wow, this is a violent wreck.
Oh, did he ride the hill?
Yeah, let's take another look at this here and figure out what happened to the number 92. This is a replay.
It just got loose, went to the grass, tries to save it.
Gasses it back up and jumps up. Oh, up onto the embankment. Comes back across the racetrack here, Finian, and comes down. I think it's clipped.
Oh, the 40 ended up hitting him.
By Rick Cohn, a huge impact for that car.
And there's nowhere for Cohn to go. It's kind of up for the 92 to join the track safely. But
that was not what I would call a safe rejoin. Actually, this is the wrong car here. But here's Rick Cohn exiting the corner. You see the 92 jumping off the racetrack here. Very unsafe rejoin. and wow.
You could see him panic trying to go left, and then he shot back right.
Nowhere for him to go.
Yeah, so... Doesn't look like it affected the 40's car that much more than it did. He already had significant damage to the nose, so he's going to carry on.
Running 16th in class right now, so not a fantastic day for Cohn, but certainly not as bad as it could be after having significant contact with...
and there's our leader there, wheeling it, the 96 of Pilata.
And Forrest Landy still 0.6 of a second behind, now 0.4 because he's backed up behind traffic. And we mentioned it before, how exciting this can get when you're behind a couple MX-5s, especially as we head towards this tight and twisty, as you call it, stadium section here, Finian.
Yeah, and will Andy try to make a move? And there you go. He was thinking about doing it, but the 96 trying to hold him.
Oh, he's going to go to the inside. Oh, contact a little bit at the quarter panel here, Finian, and they're going to make it through okay. And Pilata almost loops it on corner exit, trying to get around the MX-5s.
I think you can just see how lacking in grip that these Mustangs have. They're spinning their tires like crazy, just trying to get all the power down. There you see the 35 trying to maybe get another nose in, but can't get it done. So on the 96, Pilata is trying to pass some guys and hold up his competitor behind him.
Incredible racing here. Pilata extremely defensive, and Forrest Landy almost getting into him on corner entry with the dive bomb maneuver. Couldn't pull it off, and we have a battle. Now there's the 40 car, almost runs into the back of Pilata. Remember, the brakes on the MX-5 is a little bit better than that, at least more effective than those on the Mustang. And you see a car pulling way out there. That's the Volt machine.
Yeah, it's Kyle Herbst, I think.
Yeah, you're right. 14th, 1 lap behind the leaders.
Yeah, so he came back out after that initial contact, I believe, on lap 1 or 2 of the race. It was very early on, so nice to see him back on the track so long.
So we see Pilata definitely struggling with the handling of that Mustang right now, Finian. Got rear tires lit up and certainly not handling as good as he wants it to, and Landy's looking really hungry behind.
Again, looking very hungry behind. Also, he's kind of just has to wait a little bit. I think he's definitely has the chance to pass Pelota, but it's going to be really up to when they catch lap traffic. And speaking of lap traffic, I see conveniently 3 Miatas. You see them in frame ahead of these guys, so we'll keep an eye on this battle because it can get very interesting.
I'm going to stay on board here with Landy as we watch these guys navigate this. So you can see the chess battle that they're playing with the traffic out here tonight. So far, I mean, we've had some pretty good multi-class interaction, which is hard to get here, especially with the difference in speed and the difference in how these cars race this track. But it's going to get hairy as the ticker gets lower and lower in that count. 37 minutes and 48 seconds left. And as we close in, you see one of the Miatas right there pulling across the nose of Pelota. That's going to slow him up a little bit. And Landy's going to get a good run, but back about 0.4 of a second. Not going to be close enough to do anything this time through.
Now let's see. He's got a little bit of a run. I don't know if he's going to have enough, but he might. Let's see what they do in what he does into turn 1. Does he try to make the line?
No, he's going to sit on this. He sees the MX-5 up in front of Pelota, so he's going to make the wise decision to back away for a second, collect himself, and maybe go for it again. But Pelota's got to deal with this lap car now. It's the 51 car, and that is, looks like, the 51 Miata of Eric Jones, running back in 14th in class. See the dirt continuing to pile up there on the outside of turn 5. And down towards the hairpin we go once again, and Landy up heavy over the curbs there, being very aggressive. And that's the one thing we've seen these leaders be, in both classes, be extremely aggressive up and over the top of the curbs. Oh, has there got a slow car there? I didn't see who that was.
Yeah, I couldn't see who it was. I think it was
Looks like they got themselves all sorted out. Maybe just letting the leaders by. Let's check in with the MX-5 lead, and the top 3 are DJ Alessandrini, Kenneth Hausil, and Paul Darling. And Darling, that 155, closing in on the leaders.
You see Alessandrini actually run off the track, and maybe Hausil can get a run if he tries. Again, don't know if he has enough distance to really get it, but let's see. He's going to actually look to the outside, maybe a little 191.
He seems like he's being very patient here, Hausil.
Yeah.
We saw him go for the lead a couple laps ago, but it looks like now he's just kind of riding in second. But he definitely is quicker than Alessandrini right now. But Paul Darling closing in, and that urgency is going to begin to rise as we start ticking down the counter. Paul Darling's also closing in, so if you're Kenneth Hausil, you don't want that 155 to get around you just yet.
Yeah, definitely so.
Right on board now with Darling up and over. You see that lots of incidents being collected there on the outside of turn 5 in the sand trap as we head down towards the hairpin here. And
wow,
or turn 3 is the sand trap corner. Sorry about my mistake there, but
yeah, Darling caught a lot of time there under braking, so he's right up again to the back bumper of the 23. And he's kind of been a dark horse in this. I haven't really seen him shine, not in a bad way. But
actually, let's see where he started. I had that graphic up on a minute ago. Started 4th. Yeah, I thought he was started way back. He seemed like he's been climbing through the field.
Yeah, he's been really quiet in the top position. Hasn't really done anything. This is again what we're talking about. Is just kind of saving your stuff, and honestly, also saving a bit of your energy, because this is kind of an endurance race at this with the length of time. So you kind of got to pace yourself, just your body. You know, you don't want to tire yourself out constantly chucking a car into the corner. You want to kind of pace yourself a bit and keep your car in one piece as well.
Speaking of endurance race, I just have note that we have 24 hours of total view time so far from all the viewers that have been watching here tonight. So we've watched an entire Daytona 24 hours worth of broadcast here this evening as we continue to watch the battle in the MX-5 class. Pit stops beginning for a couple cars here. You see Idle Walksman pulling in here for the pit lane sequence here, Finian, and I see a very bent up MX-5 back there. Is that Eric Jones in the 51?
That is Eric Jones, yeah. And his day has just gone from bad to worse, so that he's crabbing down the pit road.
We got to find out what happened to this car here, Finian. Major damage. And let's see how long. It didn't look like it happened too long ago, so let's grab. Oh, there's definitely significant contact here. And let's see the replay. And who is that behind him, that other green and black car?
That is Devin Taylor in the 26.
And you see right here, looks like, was he thinking of going to pit road and just got turned here, Finian? Oh,
man. Been, hard into the fence there.
Wow, vicious impact into the wooden fence.
I was going to say, that would not hold this in real life. You would have gone straight to the campers.
But you're going to limp that car back to pit lane. But I wanted to talk about pit strategy here a little bit, Finian, because we're getting down to the pit stop time. And let's take a look at our laps since pit. 29 laps. On the tires and fuel for the most of the top 10 in the Mustang class. And you see we only have that graphic for the top 15 drivers. So Alessandrini, Hausil, and Darling, the top 3 in the MX-5 class, have also been out for 29 laps.
And actually, just as you're talking about them, they're actually right on the same straightaway as the leaders. So the Mustang leaders are about to catch the Miata leaders there.
That just shows you how quick these guys have been because they have not actually gone down a lap yet. They're still on the lead lap.
Yeah.
29 laps in. That's some impressive pace by those MX-5 drivers.
And again, I'm still just surprised that all three of them have stuck together as long as they have. There's been almost no separation between them all race long. So fantastic job by all three of these drivers in frame.
And as we work our way now down, lots of trees here at Summit Point.
Yeah, I know.
Work our way down to turn 5 once again. You see Hausiel closing in just a little bit more. And I think Hausiel's probably got this in a pretty good point. This is almost like a restrictor plate race in NASCAR where you have to kind of sit in second and maybe with 5, 6, 4 laps to go, then you make your move to the front and get around and leave DJ Alessandrini defenseless, hopefully. But Paul Darling just sitting there waiting in the wings for something to happen.
That's what I think he's doing at this point. And again, not a bad strategy. I mean, it's, you know, you got to think about it. You don't have to pass the guy really until the last lap, and if you're right there with him, there's nowhere else for him to go. And here's the 23 on the back bumper, the 191. I still wonder if Hausiel's going to ever make a move on Alessandrini.
Yeah,
every time he's had the chance, he's been sitting on it. And again, it's one of the things why should you at this point?
And while we watch this battle for lead, I want to ask you, Dominic. I'm going to put you in a situation here. You're second place in the MX-5 class, and we've got 5 laps to go at Summit Point. Where do you make your winning move? What corner do you think is the best place to make a move that maybe the lead driver wouldn't suspect?
For it to be not predictable at some point with about 5 laps to go, I would say you can try to make the move into turn 3. That's typically, even though it's an overtaking opportunity, it's usually one that the opposing driver won't expect. And it's also one that's a little bit riskier to go a lot deeper into the braking zone and really sort of manipulate the other driver into thinking you're going to do something else. If you want to play it more safe, definitely try to make the move into turn 1 because you have the widest amount of track. You also the best basically to break somebody. So once you've planned it, once you've gone to their drafts, once you make that slingshot move to go out, the best thing to do is try to do it at turn 1. The only risk with doing it into turn 1 is that again you set up them for an opportunity to do it down into turn 3. So turn 1 is the safest. Turn 3 is probably the area where you're most likely to overtake and then keep it. And something else that drivers tend to do is 9 to 5, but we're halfway into the lap and really risking not being able to make up any ground at that point. So into turn 1 to be safe, and then into turn 3 you want to trick opponent a little bit.
And there is a huge battle on the racetrack right now, and man, this is the MX-5 leaders, Finney. You don't want to get yourself caught up in this mess. There's so many lap cars here. It's very easy to get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, and we saw there while we were talking to Dominic that Gibson and some other drivers are now starting to make their pit stops. But yeah, here comes Hausiel, Darling, and all of them through this group of lap traffic and other cars as they're all trying to find and sort themselves out.
Oh, Gigi Alessandrini really aggressive on the rear bumper of the 195 of John Sainz. He's going to get to the inside here through this corner and work his way on to the S's portion of the racetrack. But Kenneth Hausiel keeping in touch here. Paul Darling not too far behind. You see, I believe that's a teammate there that they are lapping with Darling. But I kind of had to laugh a little bit looking at the nose of the 23 car. He's got Cummins sponsorship. I think one Cummins motor is the entire size of the MX-5 car he's driving. I thought that was a little bit funny.
Yeah, but also just look behind to Paul Gibson. He's behind 5, or he was behind at one point, 5 of these Miatas, and again, they're almost all battling for position. So he's going to try to navigate through all of them. So let's actually see if he can try to pass any of them on this lap.
He's going to go for one. He's going to get by Paul Darling here as well. Again, the straightaway speed difference here, about 10 to 15 miles an hour by the end of the straightaway. Down on the brakes, you see that's Alessandrini and Hausiel up and over the curbs for all 3 of these cars, and Gibson's going to be stuck behind these guys for the majority of the rest of this lap. We'll ride on board.
Yeah, he might be able to get Hausiel before this turn. Let's see.
He's going to go for. He might actually get both of them here, Finian.
Let's see, do they let him? And yeah,
Yep.
they do. So, nice job. There's Alessandrini. He's still on the
Oh,
outside.
we're going to split them almost 3 wide for a moment there, Finian, as Hausiel's going to run on the outside and try to take this position away as we head down into turn 5. He might try to get this away before we have to come down to pit road.
He's going to still look to the inside, maybe. No, he's going to back off of Alessandrini. He's going to let him take the spot, and Darling's going to settle in behind him.
Wow, aggressive driving here now, and Forrest Landy and Pilata have yet to come to pit road. Let's look again. Actually, I'm correcting myself here. They have come to pit lane, and they're done for the day pitting. Meanwhile, these front 3, the Mazdas, have not come yet.
Yeah, they're not made their trip down. And again, they got to do it at some point, and it's kind of a matter of when do they decide to do it? Because an advantage that's kind of underrated, besides tires aside, is just having clean air to work with. Just no one in front of you to race. So that's also potential for these guys to pit.
Well, it's been action-packed here tonight for the VirtualMARRS Sports Car Club of America simulation here at Summit Point, race number 1 of the season. We're going to be back here for 7 weeks on Wednesday nights at 8:40 p.m. Eastern Time for qualifying. It's been an absolute blast so far here tonight at Summit Point. We go to some other great racetracks later in the season, as well as introduce some GT3 machinery later in the season. So keep on board for those races as they approach in the schedule. And, of course, subscribe to SimTV. Of course, here on our YouTube channel is all sim racing content all the time. And if you like this, you'll probably like all the other stuff we do as well. Even if you're not into oval racing, we do a lot of it, and you should watch it, especially the Virtual Racing League's race at Daytona from last week. That was an exciting race as well. And the return of the Fuel Rickshaw Cup Series in a couple weeks at Talladega as they continue their playoffs. But let's keep our focus for now on the front of the field of the Mazdas. House Steele, 0.5 of a second behind Alessandrini as they approach pit stops.
Yeah, and it looks like Darling's stuck behind Gibson in that Mustang. Gibson hasn't been able to make any progress on these guys. Or actually, we know what he wasn't.
Not Gibson, I believe it's Darren Treacle there that's behind. And it is indeed the number 70 who's running 9th in class, 11th overall. And actually, this is for overall position here. These guys are technically racing for this position, although usually the etiquette is that you keep yourself to your own race.
Yeah, I would say these guys are pretty much racing in their own class, respectively, so they should be able to give each other room. You see the 70 there go to the inside, and looks like he'll be able to get around the Miatas with no problem.
I really don't want to leave this battle for the lead here, but I have a feeling House Steele's going to chill here for a little bit longer. Let's go back up to the Mustang lead. I believe that Landy and Pilata actually swapped spots beyond that pit stop sequence here. So will Pilata be able to chase him back down? We have 26.5 minutes left.
Well, Landy just went wide and Pilata didn't, so he'll gain a little bit of time on this straightaway. But yeah, it just matters now for these guys this late in the race just not to make any mistakes, because now it can be costly. If you made it earlier, you had a lot of time to get it back. But now it's pretty much all down to just driving the best you can, and whoever makes the least amount of errors is going to end up winning this.
See the bumps working the suspension there on Pilata's right front. That number 96 car closing the gap now 0.4 of a second to the leader as we close in now to the final stages of this race. Working our way now to turn 3. Got to watch that curb on exit as we make it way through. And then we have, of course, some lap traffic up ahead. I believe that's the number... Is that the number 40 up in front of these guys again? He's been in a lot of shots here tonight.
I believe that might have been...
And that's Kyle Herbst there in the number 89 machine, who's had an unfortunate night and has been running really good times. Very fast times indeed, actually. Yeah. Last time through was a second quicker than the leaders.
I was going to say, he's always been around them. Even before the pit stops, he was running right behind them. So he's actually trying to unlap himself.
Yeah, indeed. He's trying to unlap himself. So trying to get himself that final lap back. And, of course, it's a long way to gather those spots back. Running 12th right now, so obviously not a great night for him. But hopefully he can improve next week. He's certainly got the pace to be up there.
Yeah, definitely think so.
And Pilata now 0.2 of a second behind Landy as we'll ride on board with Pilata here heading down towards turn 1. Remember, the slipstream not quite as effective in the Mustang as it is in the MX-5. Even though these things punch a huge hole in the air and they have a lot of torque, the MX-5s just have so little power that it affects them a lot more.
Yeah, definitely. So you see the 35 trying to look to the inside.
That's a 26 car, I believe.
Yeah, so they're going to get around, and there you see Pilota maybe poking a nose, trying to make a pass. I don't think he's going to be able to get it done, though, at this time by.
Yeah, it was Devin Taylor in the number 26 car, again, involved in an incident earlier with Eric Jones in the 51 machine. Coming to pit road, they got together, and that sent Eric Jones into the wall, and Eric Jones is now retired. And it looks like we have 8 retirements, so 32 cars still running, a very impressive feat here. Look at the battle for the lead now. Here comes Pilata to the inside, stuck a nose down in turn 5, trying to get around, Forrest Landy there, and then 35 car.
That was a surprising move that caught us off guard. They see the 96 now look to the inside as Landy's loose.
Side by side through the S's.
Yeah, they're side by side through the S's, and it looks like Pilota might not be able to get it done. I think Landy's going to have it this time by.
And the distraction of having Kyle Herbst right behind him, ready to pounce and get his lap back, that's got to be in Pilata's mind looking in the mirror. I mean, it's certainly not fun to have a car bearing down on you like that, but Pilata very aggressive trying to get that spot now with 23 minutes left. It's all or nothing at this point.
Yeah, and you can see he's going to try to, it looks like he's going to try to take any opportunity he can get now to get around Forrest Landy.
And checking back in with our MX-5 lead, it's actually looks like it's changed up a little bit. Paul Darling and Hausil are together, but Alessandrini is driven away here a little bit.
Yeah, there he is in frame. So looks like these guys have been kind of stuck, it seems, I think, behind the Mustang that is ahead of them. I'm not sure who that is.
Ryan Saab there in the number 21. So potentially slowing up the guys behind them.
So I kind of wonder if I were these guys. Actually, wait, if we can actually cut back there, I think Hausil's got some damage to the rear of his car.
Yeah, a little bit of a right rear damage there. And does Darling have anything on the nose that would give away that they had? Nope, perfectly squeaky clean and shiny on that car. I wonder.
Look at Alessandrini. I wonder if he might have some. Let's see.
Well, looks pretty good from the rear. I'll swing around to the front. Nope, good on him as well. I think it could be. That might be a spot where we might have had some contact, but of course, we can't know for sure. And battle for the Mustang lead heating up once again, 0.2 of a second. And I think Pilata's got the pace here, Finney. And we mentioned it earlier. It seems like his speed comes on later in the run when the tires wear out. And Landy wasn't able to defend last time, but we still have a long way to go. And it's mentally tiring if you're Forrest Landy.
Yeah, but here comes Pilata now. He's got to run. He looks to the inside of Landy. This is going to be towards turn 1. And who's going to outbrake each other? Let's see, as they're both on the brakes. And I think Pilata's got it.
Maybe try a crossover move here heading up to turn 3. They're not going to have the drive off to do it. So Andrew Pilata takes the lead in the Mustang class and leaves Forrest Landy in second. And we got to look 14 seconds back to find Jeff Jacobs. Running a nice, clean, smooth race, but certainly wants to be up there battling.
Yeah, let's actually kind of go through some of the rest of the field we haven't really talked about. Ido Walksman, he's currently running in 4th, having some, I think,
internet issues. Yeah, but down on pit lane, I believe. Well, maybe not. Just slow on the racetrack. But Khalil Natirbov, they're running 5th right now, trying to close in on that 37. Remember, those two had a run-in earlier in the race a couple times.
Yeah, Dave Fitzgerald doing a great job. He's having a nice day in 6th.
Yeah, I haven't really mentioned a whole lot about Dave Fitzgerald here, but again, one of the organizers here for the VirtualMARRS WDCA League here, and having a nice, very nice, solid 6th place day, and keeping on course, and that car is nice and pretty looking, not a scratch on it. Louis Alessi in the number 43. Got Hunt Brothers Pizza on board that Mustang and working his way now through turn 3.
Then we have Paul Gibson behind him in 8th. And he's also had a pretty solid day, a few ups and downs, but good nonetheless. And then going back in 9th, we have the 70 of Darren Treacle.
Yep, and behind him, Brian Saab, and that's about 5 seconds beyond that. And just behind him is the leader of the MX-5 class, that's DJ Alessandrini. And right now, there's only 3 MX-5s on the lead lap.
Yeah, and those are pretty much our leaders that we've been looking at the entire time.
Battle for second, raging a little bit between Darling and Hausil.
Yeah, I think Darling's trying to get around Hausil now. I wonder if Hausil's now holding him up and he's just trying to get on by.
And this is kind of tiptoeing through here, Finney. It's actually pretty easy to lose control of the MX-5 through the S's section, especially if you hit the curbs just wrong. And right towards the end of the S's, that left-hander that has that big curb you jump, the curbing runs out. So if you drop a wheel over that curb, you're going to hit grass. Very slippery, could send you into a spin.
Yeah, these cars are on such load that any little imperfection, any little imbalance can really make them start to spin and slide. So you got to walk that fine line and not stray from it too much, otherwise you can end up in the wall.
Down the front straightaway now using the draft, but Darling's going to back off. And you heard Darling get off the throttle a lot quicker than I maybe expected. So I think fuel saving mode for Paul Darling here. Again, the less fuel you have to add, the less time you have to spend in pit lane. So maybe a little bit of a strategy call here for that 155. And back for the lead now again in the Mustangs. Landy has not really fallen off of Pilata like he did the last run. He's still within about a half a second. And if the traffic gets thick again, we could see a battle for the lead here once again within the Mustang class.
Yeah, and all Landy has to do is, again, just try to stick with the 96 and wait for him to make a mistake. Although, I don't really can recall where he has made mistakes.
Yeah,
Pilata's been running a pretty solid race all night long.
Indeed. I want to jump back real quick to the battle for 15th. In class for the MX-5s. That's Chris Hebert there and Robert Porter in the 136. These guys are involved in a very scrappy battle back here, and this is for 15th and 28th and 29th overall as we rocket down the front straightaway.
See them, yeah, having a scrap for position as they go now both side by side into turn 1. But again, it's kind of one of those things. It's like who's going to outbreak each other who. It's kind of a game of chicken heading down into here.
Oh, a little bit of a slip for the 617. He's going to run a little bit wide, and there goes Porter around the inside. But can Hebert make that crossover move work? He's going to have another run off into turn 3.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Does the 136 let him do it, though? It looks like Porter's going to maintain the position for now.
And backs off, jams on the brakes, and Porter will run away with it. And as DJ Alessandrini, pit road serviced and back out for that number 191.
Yeah, so they're both back out on track. Or sorry, not both back out on track. Alessandrini's back out on track. And it looks like Housiel's actually stayed out compared to everyone else.
And that's Waxman there in the number 37 coming to pit lane. Got a nice fresh nose on that Mustang there, so a little bit of repair going on.
And also, notably, too, Darling's ahead of Alessandrini in second, so a little bit of change.
Well, I believe Darling has not come down to pit lane yet, so that would explain that. So Darling... Actually, Darling has actually come to pit lane. So there is a swap for position there, and so Darling... right now, that 155 has actually passed DJ Alessandrini through the pit stop sequence, and that's a major change for position with 17 minutes left.
Now, and it looks like Housiel's coming down pit lane, and he's now in his pit stall. So he's going to get that all fixed up, and now it's just a matter of where does he line up with Darling and Alessandrini.
Well, they're working their way through the S's right now, and they're coming up on that pit road sequence, but I have to imagine maybe Darling had pitted at a time when he saw Alessandrini maybe gets caught in traffic there a little bit. So well thought out pit stop decision, but Alessandrini is coming only a second behind Paul Darling.
And Housiel's actually leaving his pit stall now. He's out in front. He's going to have a huge lead.
Wow, maybe short fueled a little bit.
Probably.
But well done, well played by Housiel.
And there you see Darling and Housiel at the top of the frame.
Alessandrini there, you mean?
Sorry, yeah. Darling and Alessandrini, so they come into frame there. So it's a significant gap of trying to do the math here. I think about 5 or 6 seconds. So a solid job there by Housiel to plan this out the way he did.
And Khalil Natirbov there driving to the inside of the number 10 Miata. That would be, was there a number 10 Miata, or am I just, a number 100 Miata would be Calvin Wong there. I saw 1 and a 0, just didn't see the other 0. Louis Alessi in the 43. There was a lot of right front damage to that car, and that's pretty recent.
Yeah, I was going to say that car was spotless when it left pit road, so definitely something major happened to his car. Just trying to figure out what huge amount of damage. You would have a tire going down right about now.
Oh, look at the right front brake rotor glowing on that 43. There's the hello 195. That would trying to figure out who that is. That's John Sainz and Louis Alessi nursing that very damaged Mustang back. And again, I would try to look at this scrap now with some lap cars behind him. Brian Saab is Brian Saab is trying to get Alessi because that's a pass for position, 8th place if he could get up there.
And so is Treacle as well, right behind him for in 10th.
Yeah, so a scrap for position here. 15 minutes left in this race. And it's been intense here tonight, and Paul Darling and DJ Alessandrini side by side down the front straightaway. Maybe a pass for position here.
Let's see. Alessandrini has the run now. Can he get it done? Will Darling try to outbrake?
I know it's pretty hard placed outbrake from the outside, but he can do the crossover if he gets at apex late enough.
He's gonna try.
Oh, Alessandrini runs wide.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of a run. I don't know if it's enough to work with here.
Or maybe he'll just sit on it and potentially try to draft back up the Housiel, but Housiel's really far up the road, Finian.
Let's see what he does. I think Alessandrini's kind of has his position secured, and now he's gonna have to try to set his sights on Housiel. Now about 5 or 6 seconds behind.
Darling on the brakes real late here, going to try to apex late once again, carry the speed, but Alessandrini just so good at this section. I've actually raced with Alessandrini in official before, I believe, and kicked my butt, so he's quite good at this. As we work our way through the S's now, you can see Darling just kind of throwing the car around, but I want to jump out of this and back to the lead in Mustangs, Finian, because we have a battle in our hands. Forrest Landy a 10th away from the lead in the Mustangs.
But it's caught all the way back up to Pelota. It's now just a matter, can he make that pass for the win? And will Pelota even let him even get that?
You got to start driving defensively for Pelota. I mean, again, it's not the draft that's going to get it done here. It's going to be a late braking maneuver, and we've seen the rotors on these Mustangs. Actually, let's get another look at it on the 96 and the 35 heading down into turn 5. You're going to watch the brake rotors glowing on that car. They're using so much brakes that the tire heat is going to be much higher than that of the Mazdas, so they have to keep that in mind. The brake, contact there, the 617 of Chris Hebert getting booted out of the way by Andrew Pelota.
Yeah, that was just the closing rate in the middle of the corner. And I don't think Pelota was expecting that. He's got a little bit of nose damage. Shouldn't be too much.
Oh, no, just a scrape there.
Yeah, so
These things are like, have the aerodynamics of refrigerators. I don't think a little dent's going to matter too much. But how did I described his car as
tank?
driving a Rhino, I
was
think.
driving a tank.
Driving
a bus? Something big.
Something big and heavy. And I think I likened it to a Rhino because you have no control over it sometimes. But battle for the lead down into turn 1 here, Finian, side by side for the Mustangs.
Yeah, here comes Landy. He saw his opportunity. And there he goes. They both break at the same time. Looks like Pelota's trying to go a little bit longer on them. And here comes Landy on the inside.
Runs him a little bit wide. You see the wheels spinning around in there. He's got those hands up on the wheel trying to drive that car side by side with Pelota. They're going to go door to door off into turn 3.
And they have a lap car right ahead of them as well. So it looks like...
man, it's the 136.
It looks like the Landy's going to have to back off to slip in behind him.
Oh, did he, though? He's going to try to shoot the middle here, maybe.
And here they go.
Three wide.
This is not a place where you want to be 3 wide. They end up 2 wide again. Here comes Landy
Oh,
on the
man,
inside.
look out for the contact, but they did a great job getting through there okay, and Landy's going to have to give it up and try again, but fantastic stuff up here. 12 and a half minutes left.
That could be very dangerous, especially the way he bounced off that curb. He almost hit Pelota, but he's just driving that hard, and great car control there.
Absolutely fantastic spat up for the front. Meanwhile, in the MX-5 class, it's a 4.6 second lead for Kenneth Hausiel. And then you got to look back 3/10 from second place Alessandrini to find Paul Darling. Everyone else is pretty spread out behind him, but the battle for the Mustang lead is heating up, and I think Pelota and Landy's tires are very hot right now.
Yeah, definitely very hot, and again, he has to keep that under control at least for the next 12 minutes to try to have a shot at Pelota.
Yeah, and we're getting down to it, Finney. We're going to come to 10 laps to go, about 10 laps to go. It's an estimation that we're given here. So 10 laps remaining, and Pelota's got to try to have to hold off Forrest Landy, but I think Landy's got the bug for it. He could taste the lead there, and I think he smells blood in the water with Pelota sliding around as much as he is.
I would say he's got the best opportunity he has now. It just seems that Pelota's just a little bit unshaken. Not unshaken, sorry. Shaken up, but just his car seems a little bit more off pace than we have seen them all night. So, yeah, or uneasy, I guess.
Oh, takes a huge chunk of curb there in turn 3, and Landy runs into the dirt there just a little bit as we head down towards turn 5 using all the pavement, and going to try to get a great outbraking maneuver down into turn 5, but going to sit on it and potentially try to get the exit wound up here.
Yeah, honestly, I think this kind of battle is slowly swinging to Landy's favor. I just think Pelota's starting to fall off the pace quite a bit.
And a lot of mirror driving by that 96, and you're going to start to see mistakes out of him there when you're looking up in the mirror versus got your vision out front as we continue to battle here. And meanwhile, battle for second place in the Miatas. That's Alessandrini and Darling, separated by 0.2 of a second, and Alessandrini way out over the curb.
Yeah, and actually both of them, they've been catching Hausiel now. It was 5 second leads, now down to about 2 seconds.
He's caught behind the number 19 of Khalil Naturbov there, so maybe slowing Hausiel down just a little bit. You mentioned it, Finney, and that gap is... Hausiel had a very slow lap last time, 2 seconds off the pace, so got caught up behind somebody.
Yeah, I think that might be where he lost that lead that he had.
And Alessandrini and Darling are definitely closing in, so we're going to have some great battles for the lead closing the stages of this race, Finney, and 10 minutes left in this race. Pelota, Landy separated by under half a second. Hausiel and Alessandrini separated by 1.8, and it's closing.
Yeah, closing as Hausiel's kind of stuck in traffic, so he has nowhere really to get away from Alessandrini with.
And deep on the brakes again. Pelota's going to have to... Pelota's taking that defensive line off into turn 5 here, Finney. That's going to get really dangerous later. If Landy tries to make a pass down there and Pelota comes over to block, that could get messy.
Also, what's going to get messy is these 3 lap cars right ahead of them, and they're all in succession. So this is going to get very interesting and very hairy soon.
I believe one of them is the 195 of John Sainz. Yeah, these guys are all racing for position. Francois Flipsky and Patrick Alejandro there in the number 28. And here come the Mustang leaders now. Pelota's going to have to deal with them, but he can't quite yet. He's going to have to wait for the straightaway, and Landy's right on the bumper. Going to go to the outside on exit, and he's going to have to try to do a crossover move and get him on the straightaway.
And there you go. There you see Landy trying to go to the inside. They're both going to get around the 28. Now will Landy try to go to the inside, maybe outside as they head into 1.
We got to watch this from above here just a little bit as we drive off into the corner. It looks like Landy's going to back out of it wisely, as do the Miatas. Very safe racing decisions there, but Landy's going to lose a little bit of ground in this out of wasn't super aggressive trying to keep the nose on the car.
Yeah, I was going to say he thought kind of long-term game that he didn't want to end up wrecking both of them out of it, so he's going to settle in, try to recuperate and drive back up to Pelota.
Francois Flipsky in the middle of all this. I love saying that name. Up to 10th in this race. Started back in 16th in class, running very well here tonight for that number 8 car.
Yeah, solid job all around.
And back up to there's your 3 leaders in the Miata battle there. Kenneth House-Seal, DJ Alessandrini, Paul Darling, nose to tail as we drive off into turn 1. The difference is 0.7 of a second. And last time through, Alessandrini was a full second quicker than that 23 car.
Yeah, and they've been him and Darling have both been catching House-Seal with quite a bit of speed. So I kind of wonder if maybe House-Seal's off the pace or something. Or I'm not sure what's up with him, but he's losing a lot of time. And now Alessandrini's got pretty much the cards in his hands.
I think Alessandrini's probably been the quickest car throughout this race, but House-Seal has been really there closing, and after that pit stop sequence, got back out in front, but Alessandrini's there, Finian, going to challenge for the lead off into the hairpin, and now working our way up to the S's. And this might be a short-lived battle here. I wonder if House-Seal didn't take tires and the other ones did. Possibility.
That's what I'm probably thinking of, just looking at pace-wise, because Alessandrini ran a 121.3. House-Seal's last time was a 122.4, and we saw that he wasn't in any sort of traffic at that point. So I think it's right. You're right. I think it might just be on tires.
Yeah, and definitely that's a significant difference here in this. This is a 72-minute race. That's a long time to be asking for grip out of your tires as you work right down the front straightaway. Alessandrini's going to have a run, and he's going to take it to the inside of the 23, and House-Seal doesn't even defend. I think he knows that was going to be over.
Yeah, and he tried to gain some time by not taking tires, but it just wasn't enough. He was
7 minutes too short.
Yeah, it was close, but again, not close enough. So I don't think House-Seal's got much to really say in this fight.
But while they were fighting, Paul Darling was able to get up alongside DJ Alessandrini. I don't think he's have enough to get through Alessandrini this time by, but certainly putting a fight to him and has kept pace. And I think he's waiting in the wings for the last couple laps.
Yeah, I think Darling's in a good spot as well between both him and Alessandrini. But I think, as you see, even just in the frame right there, House-Seal slowly and surely just falling off behind these two. Yeah,
it's so unfortunate to see because he had a lot of pace there, and I almost think he might have been better off taking tires and being with this group, but he's not going to have anything to put to him. Maybe he's doing this on purpose to get himself back in the draft. I don't know why he'd give the lead up, but potentially still in this fight, maybe the draft will help him hold on to the tires. Let's jump back up to the Mustang lead. 0.5 of a second separating them. Landy's been off of the pace just a little bit, although last time through was 0.2 quicker than Pelota, so maybe trying to reel him back in and have one more shot at him.
Well, he's got about 5 or so laps left to do it in this race, so if he can just make sure he's hitting his marks and keeps up with those times, he should be all over the back bumper Pelota within a lap or two.
Yeah, I just think that he's really only got one opportunity left to aggravate his tires. He's going to have to make the move and have to make it stick and complete the pass, because if you aggravate those tires one more time, you do not have time to cool them back off and go make another run at it. So we'll be coming now to about 5 laps to go when we get around to the start-finish line, and Landy's going to have to start thinking about that. Meanwhile, back for the lead, Paul Darling has gotten around DJ Alessandrini. A little bit of a bump there.
Yeah, a little bit aggressive there, and you can see that the aggression's just picked up now with 5 minutes left in the race.
Oh, who backs out here, Finian?
I don't think either of them. Let's see. Looks like Darling actually did. And he's going to try to get a slightly better run than Alessandrini down into turn 5, but it doesn't look like it's going to help him much. But I had the lead there for a split second, but Alessandrini was able to drive around him.
Oh, man, could taste it there for a second, but couldn't get it done. Driving off into the hairpin now and going to close back in on Alessandrini's rear bumper.
So I still think Darling has a good shot, and he's kind of been hiding what his true potential is, as he's been sticking with the top 3 all day long, and now he's got it in his sight. So I think now he's going to start charging.
And speaking of charging, there's some other battles on the racetrack, including the 37 of Waxman and Brian Saab getting closer together, and there's a battle now that's going to be for 7th in the Mustang class. Look out, Saab's drifting it on corner exit there, trying to get the power down with all the torque, but battle for the Mustang lead again. Pelota jumps the curb, and here comes Landy about 0.2 behind.
Yeah, again, like I was saying, slowly and surely catching. He's going to be there now with these last 3 laps to go. So now he's got a little bit of opportunity to kind of pick and choose where he wants to make the pass. Although he can't wait too long, otherwise the checker flag is going to be out. So he's got to now start planning where does he make the moves, where is he better than Pelota to really plant his car to make the pass.
I think he's looking down at the timer right now and just trying. This is a chess game at 120 miles an hour here, Finian. You have to plan this out. This is not something you can just spur of the moment do. You have to get in here. You have to have a plan, and you have to have a backup plan and a backup plan for the backup plan, because if you make a mistake, you're not going to have a lot of time to figure something else out.
Yep, definitely. As these guys cross the line, we're going to just have 3 laps to go left in this race.
Oh, a little bit of a spur going on back there, and I believe one of the drivers involved was Kyle Herbst, and that's the 100 of Calvin Wong. A little bit of a spat off the final corner there, and Looks like Kenneth Hausil has completely fallen off the pace. I'm going to just assume those tires are old on that car because he has completely dropped off. Top two battling in both classes here, Finian, about less than half a second separating both. It's going to be hard to keep the camera on the right class as we close this race out.
Yeah, definitely so. And you can see that Darling's just been kind of sitting there now. And again, question: does he have enough, or is he still, or just not? Or he just
I
has
think
enough
he's got
to stick
enough.
with him?
I think he's doing this on purpose. He's waiting in the wings, ready to make this move. But I think this is the Mustangs. I think you're gonna have to make a move with maybe 2 or 3 to go, which is what they're gonna come to next time by. But Darling could wait to the final lap, but gonna get a draft off of
smart move
Dave
there.
Fitzgerald, and down to the inside he goes.
That was a very smart move there, using the Mustang to draft. And there he goes to the inside of Alessandrini, and he should have it now out of this corner.
Completes the pass. Paul Darling to the lead with 2 minutes and 45 seconds remaining. But here comes Alessandrini back to the inside. Maybe we'll tick the nose up. No, we'll back out of it.
Yep, and that's gonna be Darling securing it right there, and Alessandrini's gonna have to drive back up now within these last 2 laps.
I think that we're not done with this battle yet. Meanwhile, up front, the Mustangs separated by a couple car lengths, but this is the intense battle. We're going to keep the cameras on this for now. 2.5 minutes remaining, and Alessandrini going to be very aggressive to try to get back around that Harris number 155 of Paul Darling.
Yeah, again, this is Darling's time to shine. I don't think we've seen him in the lead yet. So this is first time up there, and again, it's right now where it matters. The other 70 minutes had no really effect in this race. It's going to come down to the nitty-gritty.
Riding on board now with Alessandrini as we come to what should be about 3 laps to go for these cars. And we've seen Alessandrini have pace. Look at the 155. Missed the apex. That's going to give Alessandrini a great run down the front straightaway. Using the slipstream and the massive run he got, he's going to have a look down to the inside of turn 1. Or maybe he'll sit on it. Let's see.
I don't know if he can really wait to sit on it. No, he's going to look to the outside. Darling defends on the inside as they head now into turn 1.
That's a hard line to hold, but he's going to carry the speed. Contact, almost contact there a little bit, and they're going to make it too wide coming out of turn 1. And look at, just like that, Alessandrini retakes the lead with 3 laps to go.
Yeah, and you see that he pinched him to the inside.
Let's take a quick look at that. I want to get another look up above. Oh, no contact there. It was real close, but did a great job carrying the speed there. And Darling did a fantastic job not getting into Alessandrini because that was a pretty compromising position for both those cars.
Let's try to see where our Mustang leaders are.
There's a couple of cars off track here, Finian, making way for the 2 leaders in the MX-5 class. But you mentioned it. Where are the 2 Mustang leaders? They're making their way off up into turn 3. Finian, 2 laps to go for these guys. Actually, you know what, Finian?
I think they're on the white flag.
This could be the white flag lap.
Yeah, I was looking at the time these last 2 times by, and it's really close. So it might just be over, and Landy's not anywhere close.
He knows that he's being extremely aggressive. Got hard on the brakes down into turn 5.
And there's a lot of traffic up ahead of them in both classes, too.
Oh, man, this is going to get down to it, Finian. We're going to go look from up high, get a good look. Look at Landy drifting the car out of the corner, trying to get to the rear bumper of Pilata. 20 seconds left in this race. They're not going to get back to the line here, Finian. This will be the end of the race.
Yeah, and here you go. Pilota's a little bit held up, but I don't think it's enough for Landy. Landy's, you can see him just trying to push as much as humanly possible.
10 seconds left in this race here, Finian. We will get the white flag before the end, so this is going to be the final lap. Coming to the checkers out of the final corner. Landy right on the rear bumper of Andrew Pilata, the number 96, but not going to get there. Checkered flag for Andrew Pilata. Wow, what a race.
Yeah, what a great job defending, but let's quickly cut back to where the Miatas are.
Not far behind here, Finian. About a half a lap behind, and Alessandrini and Darling separated by about a half a second. Alessandrini's done a great job of running away from Darling, and I think Paul's not going to be quite close enough to make this happen.
Yeah, and I think it's a little too late for in Darling's case. He had it there, but wasn't able to stick with it, and I think Alessandrini he's earned this victory. He drove up from further on back at the initial start, drove his way to the lead, and has almost never looked back ever since.
Fantastic racing up front. You see Darling a little bit off track there, trying to make up any ground he can, but he's going to be 1 spot short as we work our way through the final corner after 72 minutes of racing. DJ Alessandrini makes his way through the final corner and will collect the first checkered flag of the season for the MX-5 class. Well done by that number 191. Paul Darling comes home in second, and Kenneth Hausil will have to settle for 3rd place, but he's got Chip Disharoon right behind him battling. This might be a change for position for 3rd.
Yeah, they've only got 1 more corner as they come to the line. And
he's going to pass him.
Yeah, Hausil just lets him by.
Change for position for 3rd in class, and Chip Disharoon is going to...
Wait, is Is Hauser out of fuel? Oh, okay. I thought he was out of fuel. Or,
No, looks like he's all right.
he's going really slow.
He might be out of
I think
fuel,
he is out of fuel.
but we'll cross the line. He'll get there.
Yeah, the engine was sputtering its last sparks of life.
But Andrew Pilata, what a fantastic race. Well-earned victory for Pilata, and Landy did an incredible job, but just I think if Landy had one more lap, he could have made that happen. But what a race here tonight, Finian. It was absolutely fantastic watching these guys whip these sports cars around here. We're going to just take a quick break. We'll be right back to hopefully interview some of the winners. I don't know if they're all in Discord yet, but we'll try to talk to who we can. Stay with us. We'll be right back. It'll just be a couple minutes. Welcome back live here to Sim TV. We're here with race winner Andrew Pilata there, driving the number 96 Mustang, and what a battle you had there with Forrest Landy. That was absolutely incredible stuff. Coming to the traffic at the end, you had to make some moves to avoid getting overtaken. Tell us about that race and the battle you had there with Forrest.
Yeah, it was pretty difficult. I was just talking to Forrest, and I was like, I'm still sweating from that, because we went back and forth quite a few times, and really my strategy was just to kind of hang out behind him and maybe push a little bit harder after the tire change. But we both kind of got hung up in traffic and traded spots a few times, and then once I was able to get ahead towards the end, I just kind of tried to drive a little bit tight and try to make the car wide and hope for the best, and thankfully it seemed to work out.
Yeah, talking about the traffic there was 40 cars that started this race, and I think well over 30 of them finished. What was the traffic like out there today, and what was the multi-class interaction like in the first race of the season?
It was basically rush hour traffic. It was not easy by any means. There were quite a few times where I thought, okay, this is it. I guess this is where my race ends. Either I crash or Forrest crashes, or we all end up in a big pile up. But especially going into turn one, there's a lot of gathering, I guess you could say there, and it was by far the hardest part of the race was being able to manage the traffic.
All right, well, congratulations on your victory. It was well earned there, and obviously a great way to start the season. Thanks for talking to us, and good luck next week.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to talk to Forrest Landy, driver of the number 35 Mustang, and tell me about that final lap there, because you almost had a shot with all the traffic, but came up just one short.
Oh yeah, that final. If I had held back probably 10, maybe a car length or 2 car lengths more, it would have been a really interesting finish. But I was so worn out at that point. Andrew gave me a run for my money that whole race, and I was just hanging on.
I want to talk a little bit about, if we're looking at the blimp view from up above right now, and we can see a lot of the rubber on the racetrack. How much did the track transition from the beginning to the end, and how sketchy was it when you got out of the racing line, especially to pass traffic?
Well, the one thing about the Mustangs is the tires go off super quickly, so it turns into you're sort of hanging on, especially through that 6, 7, and 8 section really fast. And then you add passing traffic to that, and it just compounds. So I think after the stop, we were still pretty quick, but you could definitely tell the track was slowing down and getting a little more slippery.
If you could redo the final time, would you change anything?
Yeah, I'd have held back another 2 car lengths going into turn 10, and I think I'd have at least raised some eyebrows going down across the start-finish line there.
All right, well, certainly not a bad result. Second place to start the first round of the season. Thanks for talking to us. Good luck next week.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
No problem. All right, next we're going to talk to DJ Alessandrini, driver the number 190. Oh, sorry, Jeff Jacobs. I forgot we had you here. I thought we were going on to the Miata class. But hey, great finish today. Third place for you, Jeff, and a little bit crazy out there with all the traffic. But tell us about how your race went.
It was, that's tricky, and but I was pretty happy about starting on the pole next to Andrew. I figured gives you a shot to get through turn 1 maybe before everybody piles up behind you. But we got through there pretty clean. I was impressed, and then to miss that shift coming off of what was that, maybe turn 8 or 9 back there in the S's, and just had to get off the line and let 3 or 4 positions go by. So you hate to give up the lead on the opening lap, but after that, man, it was a close battle. It was just amazing when you look at those qualifying times, how close the drivers were, basically from position 1 through 7, 8, 9. Made for some amazing racing tonight.
Yeah, I was asking Forrest Landy about, or actually, I think it was Andrew, about the multi-class interaction. Did you see anything out there that you really liked or really didn't like about how the racing was tonight? Because it seemed like it was pretty awesome from our perspective.
Incredible awareness. Sometimes you worry about, and a lot of us haven't had a chance to race with each other, here in the sim. And so you don't really know, is that driver going to be somebody who's predictable, or are they going to kind of zigzag around? And hey, everybody stuck to their lines, made it real easy, real clear, and worked out great.
All right, Jeff. Well, thanks for talking to us. A nice solid podium finish for you in the Mustang class this week. Good luck next week.
Hey, thanks for the broadcast, too.
No
Awesome.
problem. Have a good one. Enjoy it. All right, now we're going to talk to DJ Alessandrini, the driver of the number 191 MX-5. And DJ, what an incredible battle you had there with several drivers, but were able to hold off Paul Darling in the closing laps and come home with a victory. Tell us about your night.
It was pretty fun. Lap one, I think it was turn 5. There was an incident right in front of me, so I had to play a little GRC for a second there, and yeah, then I was just battling the whole way. My windshield was real dirty. Apparently, I need to be better at pit stops because once I broke Ken and Paul Darling's draft, I was just focused on hitting my marks and trying to break away from them. Too bad it was toward the end of the pit cycle. And yeah, and then Ken came out 9 seconds ahead, so I knew he was going to run out of gas because there was no way. But Paul was in front of me, so obviously I gotta figure something out with my pit stops. So,
All right,
but
well,
overall, race went pretty well. I was pretty happy with it.
pretty well. You won the race, man. I'll remind you that. That was phenomenal. But I want to talk about Paul Darling a little bit because we're going to interview him here in a minute. But an incredible battle there in the closing laps. Were you worried at any point that he was going to be able to get around you, or were you pretty confident in your pace?
It was more just with the Miatas there's draft involved, so I was more just managing what lap I was ahead. And also I could always block the inside going into the last lap, so he's not in front of me. Though I do seem to do pretty well on the outside. I tend to get good runs out of there, and I was fully prepared to crash and die to win that. So. And I think he knows that.
All right. Well, certainly a very well-earned victory here today here at Summit Point Raceway. Thanks for talking to us. Good luck next week, DJ. It was fun to watch you race.
All right. Thanks, guys.
No problem. All right, next one we're going to talk to is Paul Darling, driver the number 155. You got Harris on the side of that car. That's a local company to me, Paul, but it was fun to watch you race there, and you just came up one spot short. Tell us what you might have done differently the closing laps.
I'm not sure I had much for DJ on raw pace, but with the draft's the only thing that was keeping me there. I just made way too many mistakes in the racecraft in the last few laps there.
We saw lots of dueling back and forth with you, Kenneth Houseal, and DJ. But what was the multi-class interaction like with the Ford Mustangs? Because we talked to the Mustang drivers about how the MX-5s were, and they said it was great. But from your perspective, how was that tonight?
So this is my 1.5 season. It's an interesting mix with some of the slower Mustangs. They can definitely split up the battles between us. For the most part, it is good, but I mean the way this track is, with some of the slower guys, it's just a little bit difficult when you're running right up on the back of them, and then they're pulling away in the straight, and then you're right on the back of them again in the corners.
Yeah, certainly a little bit of an interesting interaction here, especially at a tighter and twisty track like Summit Point. Paul, very well done. Nice job on your second place podium finish here, and good luck next week, and hopefully we'll talk to you again.
Thank you, guys.
No problem. Have a good night. And the last one we're going to talk to here this evening will be the driver of the number 23, Kenneth Houseal. Did I say that correctly?
You did indeed.
Okay, thank God. I've been saying it like that for 2 hours, so I'm glad I wasn't saying it wrong the whole time. Well, pit stop strategy didn't quite work out. Tell us about the strategy call and the last couple laps of that race.
So I spent, 2/3 of the race up until the pit stop just saving fuel everywhere I could. I was just coasting behind people, and I thought I saved enough fuel, and apparently did not. So that kind of didn't really work, and then had to pit again and ran out of fuel again. So apparently I just can't do math.
Well, we saw you battling very hard with Paul Darling and DJ Alessandrini up with them earlier. Do you think had you stayed on their strategy, would you have had something for DJ?
Maybe. I was surprised that Paul came out so far ahead of DJ after the pit stop. So maybe DJ screwed something up with the pit stops, but I think I could have made it up. I mean, the bump from Paul kind of set us back a bit, but I think we could have made it up.
All right. Well, certainly a fourth place finish. Not bad here tonight. A very great finish, actually, with considering the field size. But good luck next week, and hopefully the calculations next week will be nice and accurate, and you'll be up there battling for the lead in the closing laps. Thanks for talking to us, Kenneth.
Thanks, guys.
No problem. Have a good night. All right, so that'll wrap up interviews here this evening, Finian. But what an incredible race we saw tonight with 40 cars. Actually, 41 officially. A lot of Mustangs, a lot of MX-5s, great multi-class interaction, but this is what you get when you have a group of experienced individuals on the track.
Yeah, I was going to say it was a very well put together race by a lot of these guys. Very few mistakes from a lot of people. Occasionally some people got into each other, and that's just the nature of racing. But yeah, considering there's a battle up front in both classes for nearly the entire race, that was a hell of a show.
Absolutely. And we want to thank our sponsors, OG Racing and Radial Tire Company, again, for coming on board, sponsoring these events, and VirtualMARRS, as well as Sports Car Club of America. It's been a fantastic night of racing. We're going to be back here again, not at Summit Point, but we'll be back on SimTV next Wednesday, 8:40 p.m. Eastern Time. And if anyone's got the schedule pulled up in front of them.
Mid-Ohio.
Belle Isle next week.
Mid-Ohio.
Oh, Mid-Ohio. I was going to say Belle Isle. I was like, I don't remember that being on the schedule. Mid-Ohio, again, a great racetrack. A little bit faster than Summit Point, but has the same kind of mix of really tight and twisty and fast and flowy. So Mid-Ohio is going to be an exceptional battle next week. Be with us at 8:40 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for watching, everybody. And I want to give a huge thank you to Dave Fitzgerald for getting as many people sharing around this video. This is some great viewership for our channel. So, again, if you're not subscribed, you should be. It's just sim racing content 6 days a week here. I'm Kyle Heyer here with Finney and DeCuna. Have a great night. We'll see you next week.